We'll talk about general skills, hardware, operating systems, networking, basic procedures, and service desk tools. Part 2 takes everything to the next level. You don't need part 2 if you're about to start your job. Not really. But let's say you've worked as a support engineer for a couple of months, maybe 5-6 months and so on. Yes, that makes sense to learn more about monitoring, virtualization, troubleshooting, more about procedures and how you can advance your career. We'll talk about some web applications as well, and I will provide a lot of interview tips and questions. You will have a lot of challenges and quizzes here as well. There are no boring topics here, there are no long definitions, not really, but well, I have to trust you guys. I have to know that you will not just watch my course and apply for a job. I will show you where your starting point is. I've collected all important facts and put everything in one real-world course. You will have to spend a lot of time memorizing all these things, and you will have to read and play with all these solutions. Finally, are you good enough to teach all these things? Well, I hope I am. I've been working in IT for more than 20 years. I started as a web developer when nobody knew what Google was. Yes, I am that old. After that, I moved to networking. I took a few Microsoft and Cisco exams. I've been a manager as well, because I have a degree in both HR and IT, so I hire people on a daily basis. I am a consultant as well. A lot of companies approach me and ask me, okay Marius, we have a problem with this, our service desk is not working and so on. So I hope I am the right person to help you kick off your career. Before we jump into technical stuff, it makes sense to talk a little more about service desk and jobs that you can expect. When you think about a service desk or service desks in general, the idea is to provide IT services. In most cases, there is a contract between your company and a customer. Your job is to sort out a problem, answer a question, and recommend a solution. When you think about a job as a service desk engineer, you can find a lot of names. In most cases, you can see a support engineer, service desk agent, first-line support, and customer support specialist. What does it mean first-line support? Does it mean that we have second and... Yes. First-line support means that you will be the first point of contact for your clients. You can pick up the phone, receive an email, use a chat application, receive a ticket, a problem. You've seen this application already. Something might arrive in your inbox. You can use a discussion board, everything that is designed to help your customers. Sometimes you will work for your own company. You might support just users that work with you every day. Sometimes you will support external companies. So someone calls you up from another company and goes, "Listen mate, my printer stopped working. Can you fix it for me?" Your job is to, in most cases, figure out what the problem is, log it using a special system, recommend a quick solution. If you cannot, you will escalate this ticket to the second-line support team. They know more about IT, they have more tools, and they will sort it out. We have the third-line support as well. If you work as a third-line support engineer, you are responsible for the back-end solutions. You are responsible for deploying applications, big upgrades, and projects. If you have any questions regarding this topic, please feel free to reach me out. Okay, I get it, but what do I have to know? The good news is that sometimes you don't have to know anything. Believe it or not, but you can find a job advert saying, "You don't have to know anything about IT, we will teach you. As long as your English is okay, you're fine." Okay, mate, so I will stop watching your course, what's the point? No, again, please give me a chance to explain. It is okay to go for a job if you know nothing. Well, it is going to be a really stressful journey for you. Don't do it. It is much better if you know some basics. You don't have to be an expert in all these areas, but you have to have a very good idea about some basic things. So it is all about IT infrastructure, laptops, workstations, printers, phones and hardware. It is a good idea to understand operating systems like Windows, Linux, OS, basic networking and web solutions, procedures and frameworks. The most popular one is ITIL. ITIL. We'll talk about it. Do you remember SLA? I mentioned it in our previous lecture. Yes, this is ITIL. ITIL is a framework, a set of best practices that everybody should follow. To be honest, soft skills are really important. What I mean by a soft skill is who you are, how you behave, how you approach a problem. To be honest, when I am about to hire someone, this is like in most cases 90% of my final decision. Yes, 90%. I can teach anyone how to code an application. I can teach anyone how to replace a power supply unit in a desktop PC. I will struggle to teach you to be polite, to be nice to people, to be helpful, to be on time. Do you get the idea? Soft skills are really important. In most cases, you will find a lot of points over here. Communication skills. You are going to be the first line support engineer. You will work with a client, with a customer directly. You have to know how to talk to people. You have to prioritize your tasks. There is a chance that you receive 5 or 6 tickets at the same time. When I say a ticket, I mean a problem, something that you have to look at. You have to decide, okay, I think that, a website is down. Well, that's not a good thing because they sell things online. John cannot print a document, but he needs it for next week. So, okay, fair enough, it can wait. There are things that can help you here. Yes, you can find a priority value in your system. So in many cases, you don't have to decide. You will see, okay, this is the highest priority. By the way, P1 is the highest priority. If you see P1, everything is down, everything stopped working. Professional approach to all tasks. Happy to learn new things. You have to show you are ready to learn. To be honest, if you go for a job interview and you show the last point, you will get the job. If you show that you're happy to learn, you really want to take an extra step, you really want to spend some time, mastering all these things, yes, someone will give you a chance. Okay, what about certificates? Is it something that I should worry about? Not really, it's not crucial. It is okay to have a certificate. From the technical point of view, you can go for CompTIA, you can go for MTA from Microsoft, Cisco, CCNA. You can get a certificate to prove you know a lot about procedures, for instance ITIL. You can take Prince2 or PMP if you want to prove you know a lot about projects. It's not that important if you start your career as a service desk agent. It's good to have a certificate, it's not really required at this stage. Your company will train you, they will spend a lot of time and money to show you all these things, but it makes sense to spend some time at home and master all these things as well. Let's get started. I promised I would simulate a real-world service desk environment for you. You know what? It will be even better. We will assume that we are about to start a new job as a service desk agent. I will in a way simulate your first days. Our next lecture is going to be the most important lecture in this course. You will see what you can expect when you get a job as a support engineer. You will see your first task. You will receive an email from your manager and so on. So here we go. We will go through some tools that we will use, and then you will jump into your first days as a service desk engineer. What are we going to use? What are you going to use? The first point includes some communication tools. You need an email system and a messenger. In most companies, you will find something that is called Microsoft Exchange, a special email server from Microsoft. When you think about messengers, it can be Skype or anything else that is out there. For this course, I bought something that is called Exchange Online, a special service from Microsoft that allows you to host your own email service in the cloud. So yes, we will have our own Exchange mailbox for this course. When you get a job, you will see something very similar. You will use a web interface or, for instance, Outlook from Microsoft Office. It should not be a problem. You've been using an email address for a while, right? It might be Gmail, Yahoo, and so on. You will be okay. The second point is help desk ticketing system. You know, we are going to use Jira Service Desk. You can actually go and open an account over there. Jira Service Desk is free. Yes, you can use it for free for up to 3 agents. When you go to this website, you go to Products, Jira Service Desk, try it free. When you go to Pricing, you will see that there is a free option. Up to 3 agents for free in the cloud. You don't have to install anything. Give it a go if you want. In our case, we are going to use Jira Service Desk to, in a way, simulate a service desk environment. We will use 3 main desks. The first one is not in use, old tickets. It was a demo version, a demo desk from Jira. The second desk, the second area, is General Service Desk. You can expect a ticket from an end user over here. What does it really mean? If a user has a problem or a question, he can raise a case, he can open a ticket. Okay, General Service Desk, I cannot open a document on my PC. I want to submit a request or incident. Let's say I am Kate Brown. I say, cannot open a document. Hi guys. Can you help? Cannot open doc1.docx, whatever. Doesn't really matter. And she says, okay, send. She has just opened the ticket. She will receive an email saying, okay, someone will look at it. This is what you can expect if you're an end user. I have a problem, I have a question, and so on. You will wait for someone to action it. Now, you are a service desk agent. You go to General Service Desk, you just click on it. Over here, you have your queue. A queue is a list of tasks. We can see our case here. Reported by Kate Brown. This case has not been assigned yet. This means that I can click here and find an engineer that will work on this case. I can assign it to me. I will work on it. The status is to do. This means that nobody has started working on this case yet. In our next lecture, you will see how you can change this status and how important it is. In our case, tasks are for our manager. Our manager can assign a task, can tell us what to do. This is what you can expect from a service desk application. In most cases it is web-based, pretty easy to use, it looks and feels very similar, it doesn't really matter what you go for. If you want to sort out a problem, in many cases you will have to connect to a customer's device. You will have to view his or her screen, control her mouse and keyboard. I will use RADMIN. The idea behind RADMIN and all these tools is that you are this green PC. You are a support agent. You have 3 customers, 1, 2 and 3. You will have a special viewer from RADMIN and then a special agent that is called a server that has been installed on every single device. You will use RADMIN to connect to all these devices when needed. It's very easy to use. Again, all these tools look exactly the same. When you open RADMIN or any other application, Outlook, you connect to a server and so on, you need a username and password. You cannot keep a username and password in a text document, in a Word document. Not really. You will have a dedicated application or place to keep your passwords. I will use something that is called KeePass. KeePass is an offline password manager. The idea behind a password manager is to have one application with one master password, master key, one password. You have to memorize one password only, and then you can create an entry for every single application and server that you want. In our case, you will see that we have a username and password for our test device, T01. T01 is something that you will hear throughout my course. It's a test device. When I edit this field, you will see I have a username and a password. I can view this password here. Actually, this password has been generated. KeePass has an option to generate a password. I'll show you. In this case, I say I want to use 9 characters, upper, lowercase and digits. Is it a secure password? Well, it's okay to use in a local network if you're not connected to the internet directly. If you want to configure a password for something that is on the internet, you want to make it better. So let's give it a go. I can go to any category I want, I can create a new folder here. So let's say I have something I want to document in general. I right click, add entry, and I say exchange. Okay, I want to save my username and password for my mailbox. Whatever username I need, so let's say Marius at marius.onmicrosoft.com, whatever username you have, and then you can actually generate a password. You say, well, not 20, but 12 digits, and let's say special. Okay, here is my password. A really secure password. I can add a note and save it. Now I can right click here, copy my username or copy my password. An awesome feature of KeePass is that when you copy your password, you will see that your clipboard will be cleared in 12 seconds. So you don't have to worry that you accidentally paste this password in a couple of minutes somewhere else. How cool is that? We've just got a job as an IT support engineer. Actually, this is your second day. You started yesterday, and when you arrived in the office, you opened your mailbox and you saw a question, a request from your manager. Here we go. Okay, welcome to IT support. Thank you very much. We have 3 tickets. We have 3 problems to sort out. John is our supervisor. When we open our application, we can see 3 tasks. We will start with the first one, Win 10 edition. Please connect to T01 and check the edition of Windows 10. Well, what does it really mean? When you receive a ticket, when you receive a request, you will see a name of a device that you have to connect to. In this case, it is T01, and then what you have to do. Over here, we can see that our job is to check the edition of Windows 10. We have Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Professional, Windows 10 Enterprise, and so on. Your job is to connect to T01, which is actually a laptop, and figure out what edition of Windows 10 is over there. As you can see, we are using our service desk application. So our supervisor says, okay, you have to do this. We will have two applications, in most cases two places. The first one allows you to figure out what the password is, and you will have a special application that allows you to connect to your device, to your T01 laptop. When you start working on a problem, you should change its status. We will talk about it later on when we come to procedures, but the idea is that when you receive a ticket, it is waiting for your action. You have to change its status straight away. Don't forget about it. Do not touch anything. The first thing you do, you go and change the status. If you don't, nobody knows you've just started working on this issue. In our case, I will change the status to in progress. I'm working on this ticket at the moment. I can see that the first item is in green, time to first response. I had 4 hours to, in a way, assign this ticket to myself to do something about it. This is again SLA, Service Level Agreement. This is going to be the main metric for you. Well, you can say, well, we didn't actually reply, we just changed our status. Again, it all depends. Sometimes it is enough to change this option. Sometimes you have to go and reply to customer. You have to add a note. Okay, we can move on now. We have an option to add a note, it's just for us, or we can reply to customer. So we will say, yes, hi John, I am working on it. Why not? It's good to be proactive, it's good to show, okay, I'm on it, I'm looking at it. Great. Now we have to connect to T01 and check the edition of Windows 10. I will use a special support tool. You don't have to know a lot about these tools. You will have a shortcut on your desktop. When you open it, you will see a list of all possible laptops and computers that you can connect to, so it's not a problem. Radmin is just one example of a support tool. It allows me to connect to another device remotely. To make it happen, I just double-click on T01 and I am asked for a username and password. I use a special application that keeps my usernames and passwords. I use KeePass. Again, it is just an example, but KeePass is a very secure place to keep your passwords and even generate your passwords. Here we go, we are connected. Now we right-click on this PC, we go to Properties, we can see Windows 10 Pro. Okay, we can close our remote session. We go back to our ticketing system. We say hi, T01 has Windows 10 Pro installed. That's it. It makes sense to put it in bold so John can spot it straight away. The The last thing is to change our status again. Now it's completed. We have finished our task. When you go to closed, you will see that we have just completed our first task. General skills. Every time we start a chapter, you will see a question. Do I know this already question? Are we ready to move on? I do not recommend skipping a chapter if you know an answer, but still it is a good idea to see what you can expect in this chapter. Mike, can you check the POST results? I think the customer has to reset his BIOS settings using all default options. It doesn't matter if you know or not, I strongly recommend you stay with me. We'll talk about some general skills. We'll start with hardware. POST stands for Power On Self-Test. Every time you boot up a device, a laptop, a desktop PC, a phone, all these devices go through a POST test, Power On Self-Test, a set of procedures. All these things allow your device to figure out, am I really ready to work? What does it mean? I want to make sure that my fan is up and running, there is no problem with my power supply unit, and so on. If there is a critical issue, I should not allow my end user to use my device. I should stop this boot up process and let you know. What's BIOS? BIOS stands for Basic Input-Output System, a piece of software that is designed to control all basic functions. Low-level operating system, something that is designed to help you again boot up your PC, boot up your device, just open Windows, open macOS, start an Android phone, and so on. This is what BIOS is designed to do. Here is an example from a Lenovo Yoga laptop. Well, you can ask, how can I access this screen? In most cases, you have to check your manual. There is no standard for it. In most cases, you press F1, F2, F10, F11 as soon as you power up your device. Sometimes you have a dedicated physical button. Lenovo, they have a physical button. When you power off your device, you press a special button that allows you to access all BIOS settings. So yes, it all depends. Google is your friend. If you're not sure, you can Google. Do not worry, it is okay to say I don't know. I will come back to you in 5 minutes. In many cases, you don't have to use Google. You will have your own knowledge base, a special article that will allow you to figure out what to do. In most cases, you will find what your customer is asking you to do over there. Well, anyway, so information. This is like a dashboard, something that allows you to figure out what's inside. I can see product name, that's Lenovo Yoga 213. We have BIOS version, because you can update your BIOS as well. Sometimes you have to update BIOS to, for instance, be more compatible with a new hard disk, with a new CPU, and so on. It's a pretty dangerous process. Remember, BIOS is a piece of software at the lowest level. When something goes wrong with this update process, you are really done. So it's not easy to recover. We have board number, CPU. So this piece of information allows you to figure out what CPU is installed in this laptop. We can see a pretty old CPU, i3. Number 4, when you think about CPU, especially from Intel, indicates its generation. So now we have generation 8, 9 of Intel. This one is generation 4. Again, it's good to have a very good idea about hardware and some history. So you can assume this laptop is, well, 7-8 years old. How do you know all these things? How can I learn all these things? The easiest way is to buy a magazine or go online and read a lot of reviews. A screen, a graphics card, a power supply unit, a phone. Go and read a review, see what people say. Buy an IT magazine and see what's inside. Okay, we have memory, RAM. We have 8 GB of RAM or 8192 MB of RAM. 8 GB of RAM is more than enough to run almost all applications. Unless you're a gamer, 8 GB of RAM is a standard today. Hard disks. Please note we have 2 hard disks. The first one is a standard hard disk, the second one is SSD, solid state disk, a really fast flash-based disk. Windows license is Win. Almost all laptops arrive with a license, with Windows or macOS or Linux pre-installed. So in this case, if something goes wrong with my hard disk, I can replace it, use a Windows installation disk, and I don't need a product key. The product key has been in a way coded in my BIOS, in my system board. Okay, we will not talk about all these things in detail. I have spent almost 10 minutes talking about one area. Again, my goal is to show you a starting point. Your job is to get a device, get into BIOS and see what's inside. You go, well, I don't have anything really, so what can I do? Go online and download a manual for a device, for a system board. They will show you a lot of screenshots and definitions, things that you can find in BIOS. There is always a way around. I strongly recommend you have a test device. Do you know that you can buy an old desktop PC for like $20? Yes, $20. It is more than enough to just, open BIOS, see what's inside, check some hardware ports, and so on. This is what we're going to talk about in our next lecture. General skills, hardware, ports. There is one question you can ask. Okay, mate, I am not going to work with hardware. Why do you want to spend so much time talking about ports, BIOS and so on? Again, it's all about general skills. I can give you one example. I remember I was challenged with this lesson by a guy who applied for a job as a web support engineer in a hosting company, a company that is actually responsible for hosting websites. And you know what? He didn't get it. During an interview, he got a laptop and he was asked to connect this laptop to a projector to just, show a few slides. He had no idea which port to use. So they said, listen mate, we will not allow you to, work with our customers if you don't know what HDMI is. Does that make sense? So let's jump into it. What can we see here? We can see USB ports. We have Wi-Fi. You can connect antennas in here. USB 3.1, which is really fast and really good. USB 3 over here, so all USB ports. Some of them are faster. Gray ports are in most cases USB 2.0, a pretty old standard. You want to see USB in yellow, red or blue. These are much faster. If you get a pretty new device, you can see USB-C, a really small port that is even faster and better. Something like this one. What about this port? What is it? This is a network interface card. This port allows you to connect a network cable and get access to your network and the internet. Finally, some audio ports. You have a port to connect your microphone, line in or out, speakers, and an optical connection if you want to have the highest quality of audio. Here is a small challenge for you. I have USB, HDMI, DVI, VGA and sound. Can you picture a connector, a cable? Here we go. USB for printers, mice, keyboards. HDMI, DVI and VGA are ports for your screen graphics cards. HDMI allows you to send video and audio. DVI and VGA do not support audio output. You can send video only. DVI is a bit better than VGA because it's digital. VGA is analog. And then sound. To close this section, I have a small surprise for you. There is something that is called Intel NUC, and you see, what can we see here? General skills, procedures. One of the things that you will be asked is, please make sure that you follow a procedure. Your job is not to come up with a really unique solution. No. You have to follow a procedure. You have to follow a set of steps to sort out a problem. If you like it or not, you just have to follow it. This is why when you approach a support company or you open a ticket, you receive the same email every single time. You will have a template, you will have something that you have to use to say hi to a customer. Okay, but you have not shown a template, you just said hi Kate and hi John. In a small company, if you have internal users, that's okay. But if you support external customers, in most cases you will have a template, you will have something that you have to use. Here is a really basic procedure. You receive a call from a client. PIN correct? What's that all about? In most cases, you have to authorize your customer. You have to verify that a guy who is calling you is actually allowed, authorized to use your support. It can be a PIN number, a serial number. in many cases they have to pay a lot of money in advance to use your skills. It is your job to verify that they can actually open a ticket with you. If you say no, it's not correct, then you refer to another document. You have to be extremely polite. You cannot say, you know what, mate, your PIN is not correct, so go away. No. You will have another document showing you what to do if a client gives you a PIN that is not correct or gives you a PIN that will not allow him to use your services. Let's assume this PIN is correct. You say, is it an incident? We have called everything a ticket so far. That's not really the case. You can have an incident. This means something is broken. I cannot print. I cannot send an email. I cannot open a website. Something is broken. You can have a request for change. A customer goes, I want to update my system. I want to add some memory and so on. We want to introduce a change. You can also have a task. You can be asked to recommend a solution and so on. There is a long list of options that you can have. It sounds pretty complicated, but it is not. You will actually receive a book full of procedures. Yes, a book. You will just follow all these things. This is why when you call a support team, they will say, okay, can you give me 1 minute? They have to check a procedure. It's okay to say, may I put you on hold for a minute? I have to check something. You don't have to memorize all these things. Actually, it is not recommended. You should open a procedure and follow it. If you memorize a procedure, there is always a chance you miss a step. I always refer to a pilot. If you speak to a pilot, they're responsible for your life when they fly you from point A to point B. Do you know that they are not allowed to go through a checklist without a piece of paper? They are not allowed to memorize and say, okay, I press this, this and that. No, they have a piece of paper or a computer that shows them all steps, a procedure. Why? Because you don't want to miss a step. So again, it all depends. Maybe they will ask you to memorize all these things. For sure, you should have a very good idea where to start. Are you ready for your next ticket? Here we go. This time Kate needs our help. She opened the ticket and she needs some advice. She is about to buy a new system board and she is not really sure what ports she can use. Do you remember the first thing? Change your status. It's in progress now, it's okay. It makes sense to reply to her, saying, hi Kate, I'm working on it. Okay, that's done. What is her question? Well, she wants to buy a new system board and she's not really sure which port she can use to connect her screens. Okay, so let's open this picture and see what's inside. Let's analyze all of them. On the left hand side we have 2 ports for a mouse and a keyboard. Here we have VGA and DVI, yes, for a screen. USB, USB again, network card, audio. You will have something that will allow you to take notes, to create something that you can send over to your customer. So you just label all these ports, try and make it as nice as possible, and it's very easy for Kate to understand what you're about to show. You can use a snipping tool in Windows just to grab this screenshot. You don't have to save it, you can just go to edit and copy this image, because in this ticketing system you can just paste it. So we are ready to reply. We say, "Hi Kate." Paste it in here, signature, and that's it.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
When you're done, you can change the status again. Everything is in green and we have a happy customer. She can come back to us with some additional questions. She could ask, okay, what is the difference between VGA and DVI? Can I use both at the same time? Can I connect two screens? And so on. Here, she asked to identify these ports, and we've done a great job. Basic commands. We will finish this chapter with some exercises. I want to show you a few commands. I will use a Windows-based device. CMD, ipconfig, ping, and shutdown. When you type CMD in Windows, when you go to Start, you type CMD, you open Command Prompt, something that allows you to execute commands. When you go to Properties, you can play with the font, layout and colors. It's better for my eyes, so that's why it's white. The first command is ipconfig. The ipconfig command allows you to verify IP addresses. What's an IP address? An IP address allows you to identify a device in your network. It is like your ID, something that allows me to label a device. Why do I need it? An IP address is needed to send data between 2 points. These two devices will use an IP address to communicate, to exchange data. Now, let's say I want to send a piece of information to another device. I want to check if this device is alive, if it's up and running. I don't want to start a session, start sending a lot of documents and realize, oh, this connection cannot be established, whatever. I want to verify that my device is alive. I can use the ping command. I can say ping whatever IP address you want. The most popular IP address you can ping on the internet is 8888. This IP address belongs to Google. Its uptime is 99.99%. If you see no reply, this means that your internet is down. There is a special protocol behind that is responsible for asking this IP address, are you alive? If you're alive, let me know. And this is my reply. As you can see, Windows has sent 4 messages and 4 messages have come back to me. Now finally, shutdown. It's not a crucial command, it's really useful. The shutdown command allows you to shut down, reboot or log off a device. It's really cool. I'll show you. You can say shutdown, R for reboot, T for time for 60 seconds, and F to force all applications to be shut down. Now when I press enter, I will see a message saying, listen, your PC will be rebooted in 1 minute. If you change your mind, you can always stop this process by saying shutdown A. How cool is that? So now, it just on the other screen it said logoff has been cancelled. It's a really cool command. It's something that allows you to reboot, log off or shut down a device using CMD. If you want to shut down, that's S. You can always say this and you have a list of all possible options. We've been talking a lot about the operating systems, hardware and some other solutions. But, do you remember? Our manager sent us 3 tasks. How many have we completed? Yes, we have completed 1 task only. You do not want to ignore your manager. We have to go back and complete 2 tasks. Task number 9, or for us task number 2, is to run a piece of software on T01 to test how fast an SSD is, solid state disk. A new disk has been installed in this laptop. Our job is to put a piece of software called as SSD and test it. You will have access to a special document, to a special page, application. You will go to your knowledge base article and figure out what's wrong. In most cases you will find what you need over there. We can refer to our KB knowledge base. You should find some information inside. Software to use, we have a link. We can go back to our ticket. This ticket has been assigned to us already. We can change its status now. We are ready to connect to T01.
I'm coming closer.
We can paste the link.
I will catch you.
You can ask, okay, I have never used this application. Do not worry, someone will show you how to use it. In most cases, it is really simple. You open it and say run a test. You don't have to change any options. You just say start. This application is going to check how fast your SSD is. It's going to read and write some files, will perform some actions to verify how fast your disk is. How can you upload this screenshot to your application, to Service Desk? In most cases, you will have a dedicated network drive. If you don't have one, you can use, for instance, OneDrive. Please do not use a customer's OneDrive. You can use your own cloud solution like OneDrive. OneDrive is a cloud solution from Microsoft. You can use iDrive, you can use whatever your company provides you, but do not use a customer's account.
Are you afraid of the dark?
I can create a link and share it.
Are you scared?
I will share it with myself only. It's okay, I want to copy and paste this screenshot for John, for our manager. I say hi John. I can paste my screenshot. You can drag and drop a file.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
And that's it. We save our message and we're done.
I am you.
You can ask, is it a fast SSD? Well, it's not the fastest out there, it's a decent budget SSD. Finally, we can close our ticket. Here is our final ticket. When you think about a big company, again, when you think about service desk, in most cases you will not support 2 or 3 users. Your job will be to support hundreds, thousands of users and devices. This task, this ticket is about an agent to be installed. In most cases, you do not want to go to every single device and install, for instance, a PDF viewer. Your users will request a lot of applications. They can have, for example, Microsoft Office. They will need some viewers. They will need applications to support what they do every day. You do not want to go and install an application on every single device. There are hundreds of solutions out there.
Are you scared?
99, a really cool application that you can use on your own PC as well to, pick up a few applications that you want to install. You can use 99 in a corporate, in a big environment as well. You can actually install a piece of software, a small agent on every single device, and then push any application you want. How cool is that? Our job is to connect to T01 and install an agent. We can refer to our knowledge base again. We can find a short note saying that an agent should be found in the download folder. This means that when we connect to T01, an agent should wait for us in the download folder. Status in progress. We can connect to T01 now.
Are you scared?
When we go to downloads, yes, we can see an agent. We provide our own password. It's done. How can we verify it's up and running? 99 allows you to open a special dashboard. Every time you install an agent, this agent is going to report back to a special server, in this case 99 Pro. As you can see on your screen, one device has been discovered. This means that our agent is up and running. You can find more information about this device, about this laptop. You can see your operating system, domain, name, users, IP addresses, and so on. The idea behind this application is to make sure that you can push some software to end users. You don't have to go and install, for instance, a PDF viewer on 500 devices. You can push this application with one click. We have to report back to John. We say, "Hi, the agent has been installed."
I'm coming closer.
Completed. We have completed 3 tasks. We will have a really happy manager. John, how is it going? I think you have a really talented service desk agent. Chapter 2: Operating Systems. We will start with a "Do I know this already?" question. Mike, please go to Features in Windows 10 and enable Bitlocker for this user. Also, please check if the NIC has the latest drivers. Would you know how to accomplish this task?
Are you scared?
This is what I want to focus on. I want to focus on some basic features and interesting items that you can find in Windows. We will have a short lecture about Mac OS and Linux as well. What about servers? Do not worry, we will connect to a server as well. But you know what? It's not just a question here. we will have a ticket. Yes, we will have to enable Bitlocker on our test laptop. You all go, well, that's not really fair, mate. You said you'd take one step at the time and now you're asking us to enable a pretty advanced feature that you've not even covered yet? What's wrong with you? I want a refund. Again a refund? Come on. But seriously, the idea behind this section, this training and this exercise is to show you that sometimes you don't have to understand everything in detail to know how to fix an issue, how to enable a feature. This is exactly what I want to show you here. You don't have to know everything about Bitlocker. So okay, what's Bitlocker? I've never used it. What's Bitlocker? Bitlocker is a full disk encryption system. It's a cool solution built into Windows that allows you to protect your disk. It is available in Windows Pro and above. This means that if you have Windows 8 or Windows 10 Home, you cannot enable Bitlocker. You need at least Windows 8 or 10 Pro. Why would you enable Bitlocker? It is a full disk encryption solution. This means that it is not going to encrypt your files, it is going to encrypt your drive, your disk. The good thing is that when you lose your laptop and someone removes your disk, well, he or she will not be able to read anything, to access your drive. Bitlocker requires a special chip called TPM that will store all your keys. You can actually enable Bitlocker without TPM, but it is not recommended and sometimes it is against a policy. You have to check if it's okay if someone asks you to enable Bitlocker without this special chip. Okay, so that was like a short lecture about Bitlocker. Do you need anything else? You can imagine I was your manager or a senior technician. I explained to you what Bitlocker was, that's fine. You know what Bitlocker is. Now I can just use a test PC and show you how to enable it. That's it. If you face any issues, if you see an error, you can come back to me. But it is more than enough to just go and enable Bitlocker. Do you agree with me? And you know what? I said I would enable Bitlocker on our test laptop. But it's not my idea. Our user, Kate, needs your help. So we will raise a ticket on her behalf. You can imagine she called you up a few minutes ago, so you can just raise a ticket on her behalf. Take a look. So we just specify whatever we want, enable Bitlocker. May I have Bitlocker on my laptop, please? We go to Open Cases and we can assign this ticket. I will assign it to myself. Let's reply to Kate. We say, it's okay, Kate, I am going to work on it now. In progress. We will continue in our next lecture. We will connect to her laptop and enable Bitlocker. There is a twist in this exercise, so stay with me. Enabling Bitlocker Part 2. We have our ticket in place. We can connect to her laptop now. To remind you, our job is to connect to T01 and enable Bitlocker on it. I am going to use Radmin again. is the same laptop that you've seen so far.
I am you.
I store my passwords in KeePass. Oh, okay. The battery is about to die. I didn't plan that. Okay. When things go wrong, I keep recording. So what would you do? This laptop is going to sleep in a moment. You cannot really enable anything. You have to reply to Kate, or even better, call her up and ask her to plug it in. You cannot enable any advanced features if your laptop is about to go to sleep. You can actually break Windows. So we can just call her up. That would be the best option. Just call Kate and ask, can you find your power supply please? I want to continue enabling Bitlocker for you. It's sorted. We go to start and type Bitlocker. You just say turn on Bitlocker. Kate is not a local administrator, so you have to provide your own password. Again, you will have it in KeePass or you will memorize it.
Are you
But
scared?
wait, something went wrong. There is an error message. Well, it seems to me that this laptop has no TPM module. There is no TPM chip, Trusted Platform module. It is possible to enable Bitlocker without TPM. In most cases, it is not your job. You cannot really go and bypass TPM. In many cases, it is against your policy. What would you do? There are a lot of things that you could do here. First of all, reply to customer. Let Kate know that, well, there is a problem, but you're working on it. It is not going to be a 2-minute job. You have to figure out what to do next. It's extremely important to keep your customers up to date. Let them know that there will be a short delay.
Are you scared? I can see you from behind. You can hear me in your mind.
Now, when you reply, that's okay. We've done it. What can you do? You can escalate this ticket. In most cases, you will escalate it to, let's say, second, third line. You can ask your manager, you can email your manager, you can call up your supervisor, you can ask a friend who is next to you. Maybe he is a senior guy, he can help you with it. You have a lot of options when you face a problem. Don't try and Google it, just see what and who can help you with this issue straight away. You can request participants here as well. You can assign this ticket to somebody else. We will assume you called up your manager and he fixed it for you. That's fine, we can continue. Wait, what? You're not going to show us how it's been done? Of course I will, so don't worry. So we will just assume that we are, in a way, a manager or a senior technician who is sorting out this issue for us. So let's try and read this message again. It says you have to enable one feature, allow Bitlocker without a compatible TPM. So Windows is not really saying you can't use Bitlocker. You can, but you have to enable one additional feature. What you're about to see is not a first-line support job really, so I will not explain everything in detail. The idea is that every single device in your network, Windows-based, has a special policy, a local policy that allows you to tweak all these options. One of them is allow Bitlocker without a TPM device. We open CMD as a local administrator, so we type CMD and open it with local account. We type gpedit.msc.
Scared?
This is something that is called local group policy. Over here we have to find this option. we have to find BitLocker. How can I know where to go here? You can refer to your knowledge base, you can in a way Google, but in most cases you will memorize it. If you enable BitLocker 2 or 3 times, you will know where to find this option. You can also ask your friend, your manager. You have a lot of options. Here we go. You say enable. Apply and OK. It is not enough to enable this feature. You have to tell your device, your laptop, please start using these features. We have to refresh all these settings. gp update/force is the command you want to use for it. What about now? Okay, looks good. So if I was a senior technician, I would cancel this wizard and let you know, listen Marius, BitLocker can be enabled now, do it. It would not be a senior guy or a second line job to enable BitLocker. Their job was to fix your problem. Does that make sense? So of course we can reconnect and enable BitLocker now. We have to enter a password. Without a TPM chip, you have to provide a password. It has to be a pretty strong password, I'll show you. So if your password is pretty short, well, Windows will complain about it. I'll show you. Okay, so it is recommended like 20 characters. Now you have to back up your recovery key. It is a really important step because if something goes wrong with your password, you lose it, you need a recovery key. If you lose both, you're done. There is no backdoor. Believe me, there is no backdoor. You cannot access this device anymore. So it is a pretty important step. Which option should you go for? It all depends. You will probably have a procedure how to enable BitLocker. They will tell you which option to go for. I will save it to a file because I want to show you what's inside. You can save it to a file or print. What do you mean print? Yes, you can print to PDF. So in a way you can save it locally. Remember, you have to store it in a secure place, because when someone gets access to this file, he can recover your password.
Are you scared?
We want to go for the second option, because this device is already in use.
I am you.
We have 2 encryption modes. We'll use the first one. I don't want to run a system check because that would require my laptop to be rebooted. If you're not sure, if you're confused, if you don't know what to choose, you can always refer to a book, to a run book, to a special document, to knowledge base, articles, and so on. So what's in this file? BitLocker recovery key. We have an identifier and a recovery key. If you forget your password, you can use these 2 pieces of information to recover your disk. It can take a while to enable BitLocker if this laptop is in use. It can take a few hours to enable BitLocker. You can leave it in the background if you want. However, I would recommend keep it and, you should make sure that it is all okay. Microsoft is going to tell you, do whatever you want, we can enable BitLocker in the background. It is a pretty advanced feature. I would leave it. When you're done, you can reply to Kate and close this ticket. How cool is that? overview of Microsoft operating systems. I hope you will get a chance to work with Windows 10 only. There is a chance you will have some legacy devices. Windows XP, Windows Vista and Windows 7 are end of life. You should not really find these devices in a corporate environment. Most companies have Windows 10 because a few years ago it was very easy to update to Windows 10. It was for free. Windows 10 has three main editions: Windows Home, Windows Pro and Windows Enterprise. In a corporate environment you will find Windows 10 Pro and Enterprise. You will not find a lot of devices running Windows Home Edition. In most cases, when you think about a Windows operating system and a big company, you have a lot of devices. You can imagine you have hundreds, thousands of laptops. You do not want to go to every single device to configure it. You want to have one place that will manage all your devices. For a Windows environment, you will use something that is called a Windows Server device. Windows Server with a special role that is called Active Directory. Active Directory allows you to, in a way, manage all your devices, users, permissions from one place. You can actually enable Bitlocker on all devices in your company with one policy. You don't have to go to every single device and create a policy. You can create one policy on a server and deploy it. In most cases, it is not a first-line support job to create a policy. Sometimes you will have to troubleshoot a problem. In most cases, your job will be to reset a password, to see why a driver is not working, and so on. You will use a number of remote support tools. You've seen Radmin already. Radmin is not the only tool, as you can imagine. I've been using RealVNC as well. TightVNC is for free, because Radmin and RealVNC, they require a license. They offer a free trial, so you can just download it for free and play with it, but TightVNC is free. Why would you buy a license if I can use something for free? Well, TightVNC does not allow you to use encryption. Radmin, RealVNC and some similar tools offer more features. Okay, what about Teamviewer? We will have a lab about macOS. I will show you Teamviewer. It's my favorite tool. Teamviewer is a pretty unique solution. Radmin, RealVNC, TightVNC, they all work in a local network. You have to be connected to the same network. You are in your office. Teamviewer, on the other hand, is a client-server client solution. This means that you can put Teamviewer on your local PC and ask a user in another country to open Teamviewer. You can connect to his PC using Teamviewer. Does that make sense? You don't have to modify anything on these devices. With Radmin, RealVNC, TightVNC, you would have to modify a firewall rule, which is not recommended, to be honest. So Teamviewer is a great tool if you want to support users who are all over the place. Teamviewer, again, is not the only tool. There is LogMeIn as well, a lot of options. Before we move on, I have to introduce two terms, DHCP and DNS. DHCP allows you to lease IP addresses. DNS is designed to translate names into IP addresses. Why would you use these services? It's all about a big network, a lot of devices. You can imagine you have 500 laptops. You don't want to go to every single laptop and assign an IP address. Do you remember an IP address? Something that allows your device to talk to another device. DNS is very similar. You don't want to use an IP address, to be honest. Okay, you want to go to facebook.com. You want to go to ebay.com. You don't want to go to 75.22.5.2. Does that make sense? You don't want to use an IP address when you browse the internet. DNS is going to translate a name, for instance facebook.com, into an IP address. I'll show you. You open CMD and say ping facebook.com. Check this out. That was done by DNS. DNS is a special server that said, you know what, facebook.com is 31.13.92.36. Okay, how can I figure out what my DNS server is? What am I using at the moment? You type ipconfig or, in Windows of course. In Linux devices it is ifconfig, or there are some other commands I'll show you later on. Over here you can see your DNS server. Okay, what about Windows 10? What do I have to know? Let's connect to our test device again. You have to understand that you are not a user anymore. You are an administrator. I'll show you what I mean. Someone says, can you create a new account for me? A local account. You say, well, yeah, I know. I can click here. I go to accounts. Change account settings. And I can add a new user here. I can sign in with a local account, I can go for sign-in options, and so on. Well, an administrator will not use these options.
Are you scared?
You will right-click here and say Manage. You can create a local account over here. New user. Have you seen this option before? Well, if you're an end user, you use your laptop to go to Facebook, to browse the internet, to listen to the music, to open Spotify. You don't really need these options. You are an administrator now, so a lot of things that you've done as a user, you do in a different way as an administrator. One of the things that you have to play with is Device Manager.
It goes tick.
You just type Device Manager here. Okay, so we are logged as a standard user. Again, Mike, Kate, they are not local administrators. That's okay because we don't have to modify any options here. So that's okay. You can see everything about your hardware in here. One of the things that you will do from time to time is a driver. When you right click here, go to Properties, you can update your driver. You can go for driver details or update your driver. You want to update the driver if your device behaves in a weird way. Sometimes you will see there is no driver. If you add a new piece of hardware, you have to update the driver. Sometimes you can download it off the internet. Sometimes it is enough to say update the driver and Windows will go and find the best driver for you. We will continue talking about some really cool features of Windows and some other operating systems in our next lecture. It's very hard to guess what operating systems you will support. This is why I am going to include a short lecture and show you some basics when it comes to Mac OS and Linux. I have a MacBook Pro over here. We will use Teamviewer, a really cool application that allows you to connect to a device remotely. What's the difference between Teamviewer and Radmin? Radmin can be used in your small network in your office. Teamviewer can be installed on one device and then on another device that is 500 miles away from you. You don't have to modify any routers, any firewalls, any network devices, you can just connect. Teamviewer is free to use for home users. If you want to support your customers, you have to buy a license. How does it work? When you install Teamviewer on your customer's device or ask your customer to run it, because they don't have to install it, it's a single file. When they open it, they will see two things: an ID and a password. They have to provide both and you can connect. It's a one-time password. You can change it or you can go for something that is called unattended access. You will have the same ID, the same password. I am connected. When you think about a MacBook Pro, Mac OS, by default, Mac will not really allow anyone to use this application. I'll show you. So when you go to System Preferences, you go to Security and Privacy, you have to specify which applications can manage your MacBook. It's over here. If you don't allow an app here, Teamviewer will not be allowed to connect to your MacBook Pro and use your mouse and keyboard. What can you expect? What issues, what tasks can you expect? You have to be okay with all basic options, like users, groups, wallpapers. If you want to make a change, you have to unlock this item. Now I can add a new account. You will see some Bluetooth questions as well. A lot of users use Bluetooth devices today. When you see a problem with a Bluetooth device, in most cases it is okay to turn off and on Bluetooth. You can also just disconnect this device and try and connect it back. If you've never used a MacBook Pro device, just get one from your friend and play with it. Click around, see what you can access. Here you can add a printer. You can make a backup. It's called Time Machine. You can exclude items. Do you get the idea? Just click around, see what's available. Every single item that you can see on your screen can be a ticket, can be a problem that you have to sort out. Tell your user how to execute a task. Here we have some folders, favorites, locations, tags. It's very similar to Windows over here. Go through some basic applications like maps, messages, contacts, calendars, notes. These things are used by end users every day. They can ask you, okay, what if I want to take a note? What's the best option? Finally, some network settings. We will have a chapter dedicated to networking, but it is a good idea to see what's inside. You can see wireless settings. Do you remember DHCP? DHCP allows you to assign an IP address automatically. You do not really want to assign a static IP address for end users. You can view all available wireless networks here. You can connect, disconnect, change your password, and so on. You have to bear in mind that you are connected remotely. You have a remote session with this laptop. Do not disconnect a wireless network. If you turn off wireless, in most cases your connection will be dropped. If you want to play with wireless settings, it makes sense to have a backup connection to this laptop. You can have a wired connection. You can install a second card. Finally, some tools. Some additional tools. Activity Monitor, very similar to Task Manager in Windows. Terminal, yes, we want to type some commands. ifconfig is very similar to the ipconfig command.
Are you scared?
You can ping as well.
I am you.
If you spend like... Let's talk about Linux now. Do you know that you can have more than one operating system running on your device? You can use something that is called virtualization. We will talk about it in part 2 of our course, but here I want to show you that you can actually install Linux using something that is called VirtualBox. If you need step-by-step instructions, please go to my extra lectures. You will find this lecture that was taken from my ethical hacking course. You will see how you can install VirtualBox and install Linux. I am going to use something that is called Kali Linux, a special distribution of Linux that is designed for security. Why? Well, you can go for any distribution of Linux that you want. I really love Kali Linux because it's great to play with some security options. Using VirtualBox, you can just open one file and have Linux up and running on your laptop within minutes. You don't have to know anything about Linux to have it in place. In most cases, when you think about Linux, you can type all commands and you can use your mouse as well. So for instance, you can go and change wireless settings and wired settings. You can see your IP address over here. Again, it is DHCP. You can assign a static IP address if you want to.
Are you scared?
You can turn off and turn on your card.
I am you.
You have some folders in here: documents, downloads, desktop, home, other locations, network locations, and so on. A cool thing about Kali Linux is that you have a lot of pre-configured applications. They are designed for security specialists, so you don't have to know all of them. Well, actually, you don't have to know anything that you can see in applications. But it's really cool to open some of them and see what's available. When you open Terminal, you can use some commands.
It goes
ifconfig, you can see your IP address and network settings. You can ping. Linux will just keep pinging. You have to press Ctrl+C to stop it. Use the clear command to clear the screen.
Are you afraid of the dark?
The ls command allows you to list folders and files. cd stands for change directory. It's the same in Windows. So you can say cd documents. And then ls to list all files that are inside. You can create a directory from here. In most cases, when you think about a Linux device, you will type all these things. You can use the up and down arrow to move around your commands, to reuse a command that you used a minute ago. You can list all commands that you've used as well. Finally, when someone asks you to run a command, you can just say help to learn more about this command. It's not only that you will see all switches, you will see what this command is designed to do. I want to stop here because playing with a Linux device is a very unique job. I'm not saying you are not going to support Linux devices. 80–90% of jobs are around a Windows environment. 30–45 minutes playing with one MacBook Pro, you will be okay. Do you remember our discussion about Windows editions? I created that exercise on purpose. There is a huge difference between Windows Home and Windows Pro. If you have Windows Pro or above, like Windows Enterprise, you can actually manage this device using Windows Server. You can join it to something that is called a domain. You will get a chance to manage hundreds, thousands of devices. In most cases, as a service desk agent, you will not connect to a server directly. I am connected because I want to show you what you can really expect. In most cases, you will have a special tool on your desktop that will look very similar to what you're about to see. Okay, how are you connected to this server? Because it looks a bit different. There is no admin, no Teamviewer. Yes, I am using something that is called RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. RDP is a built-in feature in Windows that allows you to connect to a device remotely. Okay, are you trying to tell me, mate, that you have shown so many tools and there is something that is built into Windows? What's wrong with you? When you connect with RDP to a server or to an end device like Windows 10 Pro, you cannot see the screen. An end user cannot see the screen. If I have, let's say, T01 and I connect to it using RDP, John, our user, Mike, Kate, they will see nothing. They will see a message that someone else is using their laptop. This is why RDP is not good to provide remote support, because John, Mike, Kate cannot really see what you're doing, cannot show you what the problem is. On the other hand, RDP is great to manage a server. A server is in a data center, it's in the middle of nowhere. You don't have to have a screen. No, it's okay to use RDP to connect to it. What kind of server are you running? This is a cloud-based server. You can have a dedicated server, you can have a cloud server. You can use VirtualBox. Do you remember VirtualBox? You can use VirtualBox to install your own server as well. Okay, so going back to our discussion about servers and things around it. What's that all about? ADDS. Active Directory Domain Services. Active Directory allows you to manage permissions, create users, groups, and so on. It's a centralized solution that is really great and easy to manage. We go to Tools and we open the most important application, the most important item, Active Directory Users and Computers. In most cases in Service Desk, this is the main option that will be available to you. You might not have all possible options visible in here, but yes, you will get an idea, you will have some options and items here. What can we see here? Test.local is our domain. A domain is a logical item, something that allows you to connect other devices to. Now one thing, it's not a folder, it's an OU, organizational unit. We do not have any computers, but we will have some users. In most cases, your job will be all about users and some options that you can configure. I'll show you. Let's say you have to create a new user. You right-click, you say New, User. Let's say you want to create an account for our test user, Mike Smith. You say Mike Smith. Okay, what about a logon name? You will have a procedure, you will have a standard to use. Sometimes it might be M. Smith, sometimes it's Mike Smith, sometimes it's Mike.Smith. It all depends. If you're not sure, go back to your knowledge base, ask your manager. You can figure it out because it will be very similar to something that you're using at the moment. But you might support some external companies, so you have to check it out. Let's say it's first name, last name, Mike Smith. Now a password. You say, Okay, what do you mean a password? It's for Mike, so Mike should come up with a password. He will, because the first option has been enabled. He will have to change this password.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you
You
scared?
right-click, go to Properties, Account. We have some additional options in here. Let's say Mike leaves our company. You want to disable his account. Apply. His account has been disabled. You don't want to delete this account straight away because maybe he has something on his laptop, maybe there is something that he has access to and so on. You want to disable his account. Another thing is to reset his password. You right-click, Reset Password. You give this password to Mike, he logs in and has to change this password. You can unlock this account from here as well. A really cool feature is something that is called Logon Hours. Check this out. You can specify that Mike can log into your system, let's say here, Tuesday, 2:30 p.m. That's it. I hope that you have a better understanding of Active Directory now. Yes, you've guessed it, we have one more ticket. Let's give it a go. In Windows, you have something that is called Event Viewer. You go to Windows Logs, you have Applications, Security, Setup, System. You can see some errors. You will see some errors. Not all of them are critical, not all of them are really important. This one is interesting. 99. Yes, we have a reason why our manager asked us to connect and verify what's been happening. Maybe T01 cannot talk to a server. Yeah? So you can just scroll, you can filter. But there is a really cool application, a really cool tool that I want to show you. Reliability history. You can see things in red are really critical. We are talking about extremely critical system problems. A system has crashed, something happened, there is a problem with RAM and so on. Critical issues. It's really cool because you can see a nice graph. You can see everything in detail. You can save it as a report straight away. I will show you what an administrator uses every day to gather information, to see what's going on a laptop. You press Windows R for Run. MMC stands for Management Console. You go to File, Add Snapping. You have a really long list of options that you can go for. One of them is Device Manager. Do you remember Device Manager? You have Event Viewer. You can manage your disks. And open services. Can you see how cool it is? You don't have to go to Start and type Event Viewer, Device Manager, Services, Disk Management. No, you have everything in one place. Now you can view your devices, you can view services. A service is a small application that is running in the background. I will show you the most important one. I know, this was just to check if your system has crashed, but I want to take advantage of it and show you some additional really cool features. You will see a ticket about it, you will. It's not a question if, but when. If something goes wrong with a job, with a print job, you have to go to Services, right-click and restart this service. It is grayed out because I am logged as a user. I'm not an administrator. CMD, right-click, run as an administrator. Now everything that I am going to type in this CMD window will have admin rights. So when I type MMC, MMC will have admin rights. Take a look. When I add this snap in again, for example, services, now I can restart this service. Does that make sense? Even if someone asks you, can you verify if your PC has crashed in the last couple of weeks? Be more interested in it. Check some additional options. Yes, but we have to reply to our manager. Let's save this as a report. Event viewer.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
Filter.
I am you.
Let's go for critical and errors. We can see some messages. We can save it. Hi John. I noticed that agent had crashed.
Are you scared? I can see you from behind.
Completed.
You can hear me in
Here is another ticket for us. Push Malwarebytes to T01. I can assign it to myself and work on it. This time it's a change. It's not a ticket, it's not an issue, it's not an incident, it's a change. So I say, okay, I am implementing it at the moment. We will use 99 Pro. We have our laptop in the list.
Are you
Now when we go to apps, we can see a really cool application, Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes is a well-known application to assist an antivirus on your device. It can work with Kaspersky, Bitdefender and so on. It's not good enough to keep it as the only application on your desktop, but it is a great tool to have it in place. Please note that in this ticket our manager assumed we would know what to do. He just said push Malwarebytes to T01. He didn't explain to us, okay, please use 99 Pro. Please use radmin to connect to T01. please use KeePass to get your username and password. Can you see the difference between this ticket and the ticket that we received a few hours ago? Now our manager assumes that we have mastered all these things. He doesn't have to explain everything in detail. Okay, let's go to 99 Pro and install it. How cool is that? Can you see how cool 99 Pro is? You don't have to bother your end user. You can push any applications you want. Let's connect to T01 and see what's going on it.
I am you.
You will not see any messages on T01. 99 Pro is doing it in the background. After a few minutes, we should just see a desktop icon. That's it. It's done. 99 Pro can be used to update your applications as well. So when Malwarebytes releases a new version, 99 Pro will report it and will allow us to update all applications. You can start a trial version and use it for 14 days. If you don't pay anything, you can use Malwarebytes offline. This means that it is not going to run in the background, but you can scan your system. We are done, we can go back to our task and say, OK, Malwarebytes has been installed. Please remember to add as many things as possible, explain everything in detail. So we say version 40449. Save. Our change has been completed.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
Microsoft Office. In most cases, if you start working at Service Desk, you will support a lot of Microsoft Office related issues. We have to remember that in many cases we will work with people who are not good at IT. I have seen tickets asking, what's PowerPoint? How can what's that? There is a weird red icon on my desktop. What's that? Yes, your job is to be patient and explain everything in detail. When it comes to more advanced topics and issues, in most cases you will work with Outlook. Outlook is extremely important for companies today. Outlook allows you to manage your emails, calendars and contacts. A lot of users and especially managers rely on things that are inside. If you receive a ticket about Outlook, well, sometimes it might be a higher priority because someone has no access to his emails, calendars and so on. The main product you can buy from Microsoft today is Office 365. There is a version for home and business users. It's a pretty complicated topic, to be honest, when it comes to all licenses. You have to spend some time going through all these things and options. You have to be okay to recommend a solution to an end user. The package that I've got is Office 365 Business. There are two main reasons for this package. The first one is that Outlook is included. In many home packages, Outlook is not included. The second option and the second thing is that you can use Office 365 for commercial purposes. When you think about a home package, it's not really allowed. Pay attention to what Microsoft says about a license. Sometimes they say it is up to 6 people, up to 6 family members. On the other hand, when you think about my package, it is for one user, but I can install it on 5 devices. Do you get the idea? A home package means I can install it on my PC, my girlfriend's PC, and so on. When it comes to a business package, I have to own all my devices. When you think about a big company, hundreds, thousands of users, it makes more sense to go for Office E1, E3 or E5. It's much cheaper, as you can see, $8 for instance dollars a month. You get more features and more options. To make it even more complicated, we have Office 365 and there is Microsoft 365. I'm not sure why Microsoft did that. I know 365 is a really important name for Microsoft, but come on, don't call everything 365. Now it is so complicated, so difficult to figure out what you can use. Office Business 365, Home 365, Office E1 365 and so on. The good news is that in most cases you can go to a Microsoft partner and they will help you. They know everything in detail and they can recommend the best solution for you. Are you ready to install Microsoft Office on T01? Let's give it a go. You log in office.com and you can download Office 365 apps. When you click on this button, no questions will be asked. Yes, Microsoft is not going to ask you, oh, do you really want to install it? Do you want to install all apps? Maybe you need PowerPoint only. Not really. Everything will be installed. If you have an older version of Office, you can download it of Microsoft using this link. You have to provide a product key, you can verify, and then a package will be downloaded. It does work. I tested it for Office 2010 a few days ago. I was able to download Office 2010 without any problems after providing my product key. It's a bit different now, because with Office 365 you pay per month, per year. You don't really own a product, you can in a way use it. Is it a better solution? In many cases it is. Well, for sure for Microsoft it is. When you think about my Office 2010, I bought it, well, 11 years ago, and it was a one-time thing. Well, that was pretty expensive, probably like £300 or £400, but that's it. I have never paid Microsoft a single pound since. Well, now it's a different story. I pay $30 a month and, well, I don't own this product. Microsoft allows me to use it. On the other hand, when you think about some pretty expensive products, it is a better choice. A few years ago, it was very difficult to go and buy a license. It was very expensive. Today, you can just pay $10, $20 a month and use a product. It's better because you can just stop paying and you don't need this application for a few months, and then you can just say, okay, you know what, Microsoft, I need Office for a few weeks, for a few months. You can pay them $20 a month and use the whole package. You don't have to pay $500 upfront. A lot of people say that the next generation of Windows, whatever name we will come up with, Windows 11, Windows 15, we don't really know, but a lot of people say that you will have to pay every month to use it. When you want to buy Windows 10, you go online, you go to a shop and you just buy a box. That's what I did for my laptop. T01 has Windows 10 Pro. Do you remember? So yes, in a few years, everything will be a subscription-based service. We will talk about Outlook in our next lecture. When I decided to record a course about Service Desk, one of the things I did was a Microsoft Exchange online account. Yes, it is a real paid service from Microsoft. It's called Exchange Online. My email address is marius@marius.onmicrosoft.com. It's a pretty strange name. Don't worry, you can always register your own domain and use it. I need it for this training only, so I am okay with it. I will actually cancel it after 2 or 3 months when I'm done recording this course. Another reason for having this email address is that you can actually open it and manage it from Outlook. What you can see on your screen is Web Outlook, a web application. A lot of people prefer a real application, Outlook from Office. It's not a problem, you can use both at the same time, they will synchronize. I will copy my email address and we will try and install it, configure it using Outlook. We have Access, Excel, Office Tools, and Outlook. PowerPoint, Publisher, Word, but we are interested in Outlook. When you open it, Outlook will try and search for accounts. If you use the same account everywhere, you don't have to do anything. When you open Outlook on a new PC, you don't have to do anything. In here I am logged in as a different user, so I will just paste my email address. In most cases, if this is an Exchange, Microsoft Exchange based address, Microsoft Exchange is an email server from Microsoft, you don't have to do anything. You can decide what my company can do about my address and my devices, but you don't have to provide any detail. As you can see, my account has been successfully added. I can receive and send emails using Outlook. Do you remember we did receive one email from our manager? Let's check if it's there.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
Here we go. Microsoft Exchange is not the only option out there. You can go for Gmail, you can go for Yahoo, you can go for your own domain and your own email server. When you think about Microsoft Exchange, you can go for some additional options. And one of the things that you have to understand is that when you think about a Microsoft Exchange account, all information will be kept in this file, OST. When you think about some other accounts, in most cases you will have a file with a special extension, PST. Let's try and add a fake account, something that doesn't exist. I'll show you what I mean. When I say Gmail, as far as I remember, Outlook will identify it. Let's give it a go. Yeah, I don't have a password, I can just come up with a password. When you click connect, please note that my server has been identified. I don't have to type it in. It's a different story if you use your own email server, if you use Yahoo or something else. I will have to fill in all boxes. There are two main servers that you have to identify. It's an incoming and outgoing server. An incoming server uses a special protocol, POP3. POP3 uses port 110. What's a port number? A port number allows you to identify a service. In this case, when I say incoming email, I say 110, everybody knows, oh, it is POP3, a special incoming server, a protocol that allows me to download my emails. The second server, the second protocol, is for outgoing, for sending out my emails. In this case, port is 25. The protocol is called Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. Okay, do I really have to memorize all these things? Yes, actually, this is the most popular interview question. When I want to hire someone, I ask him, okay, what's port 25? If you want to configure an incoming email server, what is your main option? There is one additional option. You can require an encrypted connection, SSL TLS. SSL TLS is a special protocol that you use every day. When you type HTTPS, S is for secure, you are going to use a special encrypted connection based on this protocol called SSL. If you think about an incoming email, you want your connection to be encrypted. It's not really your choice. In most cases, your administrator, your email administrator decides, okay mate, you should really encrypt your connections. All emails that you will receive will be kept in a special file, PST. You can use an existing data file. If you don't go for an existing file, a new one will be created for you. If you want to make a backup, you just have to copy this PST file, that's it. Okay, what about Microsoft Exchange? Do I have to copy this OST file that you showed a few minutes ago? Not really, you could. But Microsoft Exchange is not going to download anything off the server and delete. Not really. Microsoft Exchange is going to synchronize your emails. It is possible with some other accounts. There is a special protocol called IMAP, but it is beyond our discussion. Finally, what can you see when it comes to Microsoft Excel, Word and so on? You can find a lot of questions. I'll show you something that everybody keeps asking for. When we have a spreadsheet like this, I want to print it, but as you can see, I have 2 pages. I want to have everything on one page. How can you fix it? You go to this last option. You can just remove this page view.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
Now you can tweak it. You can change to landscape.
I am you.
You can change the size, you can make it fit better. It's much better now. This is what you can expect when it comes to an issue from an end user. Why do you have an account error? Again, Microsoft Office will try and use my login name. So I am Mike HR at whatever. But my Microsoft package was, in a way, licensed for somebody else. So I just have to click on Marius K to let Microsoft and Office know, you know what? It's not Mike, it's Marius who is licensed to use this package. Of course, in the real world, you want to keep everything under one name to make it very easy for your end users. Mike needs us again. He has just created a ticket for us. Let's see what's inside. How can I password protect my doc? Can you show me, please? Sure, Mike, no problem. I can give you a call and show you how you can configure a password in Microsoft Word. So you connect, you say, okay, you have your document ready. You go to Save As, whatever location you want. In Tools, you go for Options. You have two passwords that you can go for. You can configure a password to open your document and modify it. Okay, Mike, are you okay with it? Yes, thank you very much, Marius, you're the best. I will let John know you are the best service desk guy out there. Well, thank you, Mike, we are here to help you. We can add a note and close this ticket. Here is a bonus question. What if Mike puts a password in this document and then he goes, Marius, you will kill me. I don't know what the password is. Well, do you have like a master password? Do you have a backdoor? Can you do anything about it? The answer is not really. There is no official way to open a document that was password protected by an end user. What you can do, if you are allowed by your manager and your security team, you can use a special application to crack this password. Well, cracking, that doesn't sound right. It's okay if you're authorized, you know? It's okay to forget a password. You can't recover it, but it is okay to guess what your password is. We will use something that is called a brute force attack. We will actually try all possible combinations. You can use a special application that will allow you to achieve it. It will literally go one by one. It will start with A, B, C, D, and then AB, AC, AD, and so on. All possible combinations will be tried out. Sometimes we say it is a brute force attack. It is not going to be a service desk job to recover a password, but you know, it's good to know that there is an option like this. Please do not recommend it to your end users, to your customers. You have to ask your manager and your security team it's okay to do it. Chapter 3 Networks. Mike, what's the MAC address of T01? Would you know how to approach this problem? What's a MAC address? We will not cover everything about networks. It's impossible. You don't need everything. You have to know some basics. When you think about a MAC address, it is a special physical hardware address that you can find. Every single device that is connected to your network has a MAC address. A MAC address is not something that you assign. A MAC address is assigned by a manufacturer. So if you get a laptop from, for instance, Dell, they assign a MAC address to a wireless card. You don't change it, you just use it. And yes, a MAC address has to be unique. A MAC address is used by your devices in a local area network. Okay, we will start with a really basic definition. What is a network? We think about a network if we can connect at least two devices and they will exchange data. We need a network interface card, NIC, and a special network cable, RJ45. You say, well, I don't have a cable, I use wireless, so yes, it's okay. You have a wireless network interface card. It's just a wireless connection. Another example is, I have a Bluetooth headset. Is it a network? Yes, it is. Do you have two devices? Yes, you have a headset and a mobile phone. Do they exchange data? Yes, you have Spotify running on your device. So yes, Spotify is going to send data to your headset. Actually, there is a name for this network. It's called PAN, Personal Area Network. I've used this term a few times already. A local area network. It covers a limited area. One building, one office, one big place. On the other hand, a wide area network covers a large area. If you take two local area networks, for instance, you have one office in New York and one in Washington, you are going to create a wide area network. You will have a special device in the middle. For a wide area network, it is a router, or as my friends in the USA keep asking me, it's a router, mate, not a router. Sorry, I spent 6 years in the UK, so sorry about that. When you think about a local area network, this device is a switch. A switch is a special device that allows you to connect a lot of devices in your local area network. A printer, a server, a scanner, a computer, and so on. Okay, what about this MAC address? What's that? How can I check what my MAC address is? Well, I will check it on my local PC. I say ipconfig all. I find my card. And in here I have my physical address. Physical hardware MAC address. It's the same thing. Here is my MAC address. The easiest way to learn about networks is to connect to a router and play with it. You can connect to your own router and see what's inside. When you think about a small network and, even a big network, you have something that is called a default gateway. When you type ipconfig, you can see your default gateway. If you're at home, you can open a web browser and type in this address. 99.999% you will be allowed to connect to it using a web browser. You can browse to it. Do I need a username and password? Yes, sometimes you will find a label on your router. You can go and check it out. Sometimes you will have, an email from your company. Sometimes you will configure it. When you go and buy a router, for instance from Asus, a router will ask you, okay mate, what is your password? Can you tell me what your password will be? So please feel free to type ipconfig and connect to your router. In our next lecture, we will connect to an Asus router. But it is not a router that I have at home. It is a demo router by Asus. So you don't have to play with your own router if you don't feel comfortable doing it. Don't worry, you can go to demouiasus.com and play with a router. We will talk about all these things in our next lecture.
Are you scared?
Let's connect to our router now. When I log in, I will see a special dashboard, something that allows me to figure out what's going on, if my router is connected to the internet, how many devices are connected, and so on. They call it a network map. It's very similar to a dashboard. I have 7 devices over here. When I click view list, I can see how they're connected. What's more, when you think about a router, you can have more than one link to the internet. If you buy a really cheap router, that's not an option. If you pay more, you can have more than one option to connect to the internet. The most popular way is to have, for instance, a broadband connection, and then you buy a USB dongle and go for 4G LTE connection. This is exactly why you have a USB port available on many routers. You can use both connections at the same time. You can use your broadband connection as your primary connection. One thing that is really important if you buy a brand new router, please make sure that your wireless connection is secure. For instance, when you buy a router from Asus, there is no wireless password. That's how they arrive. Open system. If you connect your router to the internet and your local area network, there is no password required if you want to connect using a wireless card. You don't want to have it, please make sure that you go over here, go for WPA2, that's what you want to use for wireless.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
What else can we see here? We can see LAN, local area network. We can see a DHCP server. This means that your router will assign IP addresses to all devices in your network. Finally, some wireless options. Please remember that you want to use WPA2 or WPA3 if possible. Please avoid using WPA and WEP. You have learned so far that we do not really want to go to every single device and configure a feature. We've seen 9.9 Pro. We have pushed a couple of applications. We have installed an agent. We don't have to go and, install or update a PDF viewer on every single device. What about some Windows settings? What if you want to change something on 500 devices? You can ask, okay, what do you mean change? What do you want to do? We want to control what end users are allowed to do. You are supposed to use your laptop to work. You are not really allowed to change network settings, to change your wallpaper and so on.
Scared?
In many places you have to stick to a set of rules. For example, I can just specify what icons are allowed on your desktop. I can modify your wallpaper. You can imagine that when you face a customer, and you show your desktop, for instance, you work for a bank and a client can view your screen to accept a policy, you should have a wallpaper with your bank, with your logo and so on. That's what GPO is designed to do. You can modify hundreds, thousands of options inside. It will keep you busy for a few weeks if you want to go through all these options. When you're done, you have to assign this policy. You can assign a policy for a computer or for an account. Active Directory, GPO, a lot of really powerful tools that you can use to manage all your devices.
Afraid of the dark?
You know more about service desk procedures than 90% of people who will apply for a job as a service desk agent. In most cases, people have no idea what SLA is, they don't know how to open a ticket, they know nothing. You know a lot. In this chapter we will talk a little more about procedures. It is going to be a really short ITIL course. Do I know this already? We have a lot of procedures in place. Can you name service value chain options, VC? We have ITIL version 4 now, and this is what I want to focus on. If you want to take an official course about ITIL, it is 3 days, yes, 8 hours, 3 days. A lot of topics, a lot of concepts. Here it will be a really short description of things and terms that you have to understand. Okay, what about the service value chain? What's that? Plan, improve, engage, design, obtain and deliver. We have main values, main services, a chain of events. We have 4 main dimensions of service management: organization and people, value streams and processes, partners and suppliers, information and technology. All these things can, impress a manager, but you will not use them every day. What's really important is to understand some basic terms. A lot of people, when you get a job, will assume that you know what SLA is. So let's go through some basic points and terms that are used every day when you find a job as a service desk agent. Let's start with SLA. Okay, we know what SLA is. You know, I have 4 hours to reply to my customer. I know, and I have 16 hours to close my ticket. Yes, so it is our responsibility. Another example is if you go for a data center, if you want to rent something over there, they tell you our SLA uptime is 99.9%. A very similar term is OLA, Operational Level Agreement, an agreement between an IT service provider and another part of the same company. So you can have this agreement between one department and another. CAB stands for Change Advisory Board. If you want to raise a change, if you want to say, I want to modify this feature, I want to install a new service. For example, you say, I want to deploy a cloud solution for our antivirus. It's a big project, it's a big change. You need someone to approve it. If you want to fix something, do you remember our ticket about Microsoft Word? Yeah, just someone has no idea how to open a document and to protect it using a password. It's not a big deal. Someone has no idea how to enable Bitlocker. It's not a problem. If you want to deploy a cloud solution and install an antivirus application on 500 devices, you need someone to approve it. You will go to a Change Advisory Board. You will go to CAB. In most cases, you will submit a special document and then you will be asked to join a special call. You will have a conference call and you will present your change. You will tell everybody, okay guys, this is what I'm going to do. You will have technical guys and you will have managers. You have to explain everything in a way that they understand what you want to achieve. You have to have a backup plan. You have to show what you will do if something goes wrong. You have to show how you will measure everything. You will have a template, so you don't have to worry about it. You will have to fill in a document with several fields. It's a pretty advanced process, so in most cases it is not going to be something that anyone asks you to do as your first task. In many places, a service desk agent will not even raise a change. Sometimes it is something that will be done by a different department, second line and so on. Sometimes you will find one more term, ECAB, Emergency CAB. You can picture a situation that you work for a data center and then someone realizes, oh, there is a bug in our firewall. Cisco has just announced that there is a really big problem with our firewall. We do have a fix for it, but we have to reboot our firewall. Is it a change? Yes, it is. You have to update your firmware. In most cases, a CAB meeting is, let's say, once a week, once a month. You can't wait 7 days. You have to make it happen within hours. You can go for an emergency CAB. You have to justify this is something that I have to do straight away. In many companies, you will have something that is called a change freeze. For instance, Christmas. You don't want to introduce a change because something can go wrong. You will have a change freeze. If you want to change something, you have to justify it. It has to be in a way an emergency change, something that cannot really wait. In many places, you will have a calendar. You can see, okay, I can see there is a change freeze here, here and there. A lot of applications that you use can identify it and let you know. Listen mate, you cannot really raise a change now because it's a change freeze. Wow, a lot of things here. but it is all about delivering the best value, the best service to our customers. We will talk a little more about some concepts and especially service operations in our next lecture. Let's talk a little more about service operations. We know we can have a ticket, but it is not good enough to say we have a ticket. We have to be more specific about it now. We can have an incident. Something is broken, you have to fix it. Someone goes, you know what, I can't print, I cannot connect to the internet, I can't log in, and so on. You can have a problem as well. You can imagine that you receive 15 calls saying, I can't access an Exchange server, I can't download my emails. It is not just an incident, it is a problem, something that we have to raise and fix. It is something that in a way affects a lot of users. Finally, we have a service request. We want to change something. You know that sometimes you cannot finish a task. We've seen it already. Do you remember a couple of tasks that we finished so far? Bitlocker? There was no TPM module. We had to ask someone to enable a special policy. You can escalate it. Well, I don't know how to do it, so can you help me please? Unfortunately, sometimes someone can escalate a case because you were not good enough to sort it out. You have to bear it in mind that if you fail to deliver the best service, someone can escalate it to your leader, to your manager. In most cases, when someone opens a ticket, he has a way to escalate it. So if he is not happy with your support, believe me, he can do it behind your back. You will not even know that this has just happened. You will learn about it from your manager in a few days. He will ask you for a short meeting and explain you what went wrong. In a good company, this is like an exercise. Sometimes an escalation is good because you can learn from it. Sometimes it is just someone who was upset and that's it. There is nothing you can do about it. This is why you will have a manager, someone who will help you understand what the problem was and how to address it. Your job is not only around incidents, problems and requests. Your job is to make your service better. Something that is called Continual Service Improvement, CSI. You have to analyze, review and make recommendations to improve your services. If you spot a problem, if you notice that something can be improved, let everybody know. Let your manager know. Let a senior guy know. It is your job to make your service better. Sometimes it might be a really small thing that will make a huge difference. It is especially important to report when you notice a security issue. If you notice that a customer decided to, let's say, save a document with password, clear text, it is not a good thing, but it is not your job to point it out and, educate a user. Not really. You should discuss it with your manager, he will take it from there. You will work with a number of systems that will send you alerts, events and incidents. It is your job to sort it out and make it look and work better. I know it is a pretty limited job, first line support, a service desk agent, so yes, you will not improve 15 things a day, not really. Please keep your eyes open, be proactive, be ready to notice what has just happened. You have to make sure that you document everything as well. You've seen documents already, we've seen a nice knowledge base page, you've seen all these notes. You have to keep everything up to date. In many cases, you will take a note of an IP address, for instance, of a server. If you have to change this IP address, you have to modify a document straight away. You have to go to Assets and then modify something that is called a configuration item, CI. You have to make sure that everything is up to date. Remember that someone will have to use this piece of information in a few hours. When you go home, you have to make sure that someone can read your notes and figure out what has happened. The same applies to your tickets, incidents, and changes. Make sure that you take a lot of notes and describe what the problem was. In many places, you will have a special page that will allow you to, monitor and update something that has been happening in the last 8 or 16, 24 hours. It is especially important if you want to escalate a problem. You will escalate it to someone who knows more than you do. Believe me, he will challenge you if you make a stupid mistake or if you miss something that was obvious. Do you know what I mean? You have to explain everything in a way that they can understand and just fix it for you. Can you give me an example? You're a first-line network agent. Someone goes, "Oh, my internet is down." You say, "Okay, can you see any lights on your router?" And the customer says, "No." You say, "Okay, so yeah, let's escalate it. Your router is broken." It is something that happened to me a few years ago. One of my agents just, said, "Okay, your router is broken," and we actually sent a field engineer on site. Someone arrived to replace his router because an agent said, "Well, it's broken." Actually, it was just enough to push a power cord. I know it takes time. You will make a lot of mistakes. Yes, you will. It's not a question if, but when. It is okay. You have to learn and make things better. You have to make sure that you're ready to learn and you will become a second and third line guy in a few years. How to get a job in IT? Well, it is not going to be one lecture and you will all get a job in IT. It doesn't work like this. I will try my best to give you some tips and things that you can try out. Here I will focus on a standard process, things that you can expect when you apply for a job. In our next lecture I will give you some general tips. In most cases it all starts with an advert. You go online and find what you're interested in. A lot of positions are open directly. You can go to a company directly and apply over there. Sometimes you will have an agency, someone who is going to work on behalf of a company. Do not assume that you will find all jobs when you go to one website. Whatever engine, whatever website you use, don't trust it. Don't use it as the only source for you. Find a really big company in your area. Visit their website and see what's available. A lot of companies will not actually post anywhere. They will just create an advert using their own website. When you apply for a job, you have to be patient. Sometimes it can take a few weeks for someone to open your application. What should you include? Your CV is extremely important. You can add a nice cover letter as well. Make sure that it is all okay. If you're not a native speaker, I strongly recommend you ask someone to check it for you. It's very easy to make a mistake and it looks horrible. In most cases, there are hundreds of people who want to get a job. I will spend around 5-6 seconds looking at your CV. Yes, 5 seconds. If I don't find what I'm after, I will just move on. I don't really agree with it. When I receive a CV, I spend more time on it. But I appreciate sometimes you don't have a choice because you have just received 300 applications. Go and find a nice template. Make sure that you have a nice profile. Use LinkedIn as well. Show your skills. More about your CV in our next lecture. Let's assume that you were okay and someone calls you up. It might be an agency or an HR department. What can you expect? In most cases, you will hear the following questions. Are you still interested in this job? What is your availability? What is your salary expectation? What is your experience? Can you tell me a little more about yourself? Why do you want to get this job? Why did you apply? Why do you want to change your job? Are you available for an on-site interview? What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? Can I expect any technical questions? Sometimes you can. In many cases, even an HR specialist can have a list of questions to ask. Yes, technical questions. What do you mean? They are not technical. How can they ask a technical question? Yes, they can. You've watched my course, right? So you know everything that I've covered. A very simple question. Port number for SMTP. I don't have to be an expert in IT to test it. You know or you don't know. SMTP is port 25, so yes, you can expect some basic technical questions. Please make sure that you go through my final quiz. You will find like top 50 interview questions. Try and find a quiet place to talk. Make sure that you're relaxed and you show that you're the best guy to get this job. I will try my best and so on. If you're okay, you will be asked for an on-site interview or sometimes a remote interview, in most cases via Skype or a special platform that the company uses. You can have a short meeting with a manager and with an engineer. You will be tested. In most cases they will give you a test, they will give you something to test your technical skills. I don't like it because sometimes it's just things that you have to memorize. So I really enjoy when, people have a chat, when they talk about things that you know. Things to remember, be on time, smart dress. Finally, an offer. I hope that, you have impressed everybody so far. You can expect an offer. You will receive an email saying, yes, we can hire you. Here is what we can offer. I hope that you will get to point number 4. How to get a job in IT. If you're patient enough, if you're good enough, if you show you want to learn, you will get a job in IT. It can take a while, you have to be patient, but it will happen. A few tips from my end. You cannot really send a CV and say, I know nothing about IT. Not really, show something. You have just completed a course on Udemy. I know it's not the same as a certificate from Microsoft, but it is still something that you can show. I have completed 15 courses. I have created a few labs. Mention everything that you've worked with. I can give you one example. You have a CV and you don't have any experience. Feel free to add a note. I have created a big lab at home. I have installed Active Directory, Windows Server, Windows 10, PRTG for monitoring. I have used 99 Pro to push software to my end devices. I have played with Kaspersky Cloud endpoint protection, and so on. Do you get the idea? You have to have a starting point. Another thing you can try is being a freelancer. You can post an ad and say, I can fix your wireless issues. Someone calls you up and goes, well, I have a problem with wireless, can you fix it? You pop in and try and fix it. You can be a very active guy on the internet. Go to a discussion board and start asking and answering questions. Go online and read a magazine. Make sure that you're up to date when it comes to all hardware and software solutions. I can ask you one question. I want to buy a storage device, network attached storage. Can you recommend me a device? In this area, you have to keep learning. It's not a job from 9 till 5 and you go home and forget about it. No. You will have to spend a lot of time learning, passing exams and so on. A career in IT is really great, it's awesome. Your job is to help people. They will appreciate it. You can make good money. They will pay you very well if you're good enough. You will not struggle to find a job after a few years. You can specialize in networking, cloud, Microsoft, Cisco, and so on. You can be an expert in all these areas. So it's a great career. Finally, do not lie in your CV. Your job when you create a CV is to stand out from the crowd. It's okay, but you cannot really say, I have installed 500 servers in the last 5 years. Well, actually, you have installed a couple of servers using a virtual machine. You can't do that. I am a manager, but I am a technical guy as well. One of the things that I have done in the past, I have always asked a few technical questions. People were really surprised. Oh, what do you mean you're a manager and you're asking some technical questions? Keep my fingers crossed for someone to give you a chance.
Afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
I don't know if there's just one mistake that people can make. There are probably many mistakes that can occur during your first interview. But I consulted a few of my colleagues, and we came up with a short list of what we think is the most important. Don't criticize your previous employer. That was probably number one. It doesn't look good for someone to criticize the person that they worked for prior. The company that you're interviewing for will only think that you'll do the same with them when you're working for them or after you leave them. And no one wants any unnecessary bad reviews. Secondly, don't arrive late, too early, or be a no-show. Arriving too late shows them that you're probably going to be late to work on a regular basis. And you didn't even take enough time to make a good first impression. Arriving too early can put your recruiter or interviewer in a rush because they're trying to accommodate you and rushing through, and so it's not a relaxed beginning for your first impression. And lastly, no-shows are never acceptable. When you don't show, it's just you'll never probably get an interview at that particular place again. Don't bring anyone with you. Bringing your parent, your children, your significant other, spouse, that's an indication to a recruiter that you have difficulties at home and that you may get pulled away and miss work because of that. Being inappropriately dressed, regardless of whether that the atmosphere is casual, it's nice to put forth your best effort and the way you look when you come to an interview. You don't want to assume that your casual wear is acceptable for an interview. Make sure that you are clean, pressed, and ready to go. I've had people show up on interviews in pajamas and slippers, and that's
Really?
not a good look.
It's not a joke.
I'm sorry?
It's not a joke.
No, it's not.
Really.
I'm not being prepared. It's extremely important that you prepare for your interview. And you can prepare in a number of ways by practicing interviewing with someone. You can read the website, make sure you understand what the company does, maybe who their clients are, and you can bring that information to the interview so that they get an idea that you know and that you've done your homework. Stating that you have skills and then you have no example to prove that you actually have those skills. If they ask you if you've done something and you can't come up with an example, they're going to think that you're lying. And that's going to immediately disqualify you from the position. And the last thing I would recommend is if you have social media out there, make sure you clean it up. A lot of times recruiters or interviewers will look at social media pages and look up your name to see if they can find you. And if you have information out there or pictures that aren't flattering to you at all, it's another way to get yourself disqualified from being considered for the position.
I started my career as a support analyst, service desk analyst, or the help desk analyst. There is a different roles, different titles for the different companies. But yeah, I started at the service desk level. Over the 10 years, I worked in service desk team lead, system admin. Right now, like I am focusing more my career, or my interest is more towards the security. So I'm learning more towards the security right now. When you are searching for the job, I would recommend you to believe in yourself, first of all, and do your homework. Like when you're going for the interview, prepare yourself. Like try to understand the concept of the service desk. Try to follow the ITIL framework. That's really important for the service desk job. And like not just follow, but understand it. How, or like what is SLA, and like basically like people are getting like really scared between SLA. Like SLA is not the time you have to fix the problem. SLA is the time that you have to recognize the ticket, like it's opening. Like if your SLA is like 20 minutes, you don't have to resolve the ticket in 20 minutes. You gotta resolve that. You have to acknowledge that ticket in 20 minutes. We are working on it. It will take some time, and you have to periodically keep an update about the task you're working for that particular user on the ticket. And to get a job, like of course, like I would recommend Marius is providing really cool courses on Udemy and really great prices. Believe me, I took some courses to refresh my memory, and like Marius, that was a really good like you combined really good material for anyone who wanted to start the career or who wanted to refresh that. I did select your courses for the refreshment, and it was really great. Oh, for sure. Like I definitely go for the interview, and once you get the job, go on your job with the right attitude to learn, being hungry for the knowledge, being hungry for what you really want, or like your future looks like, where you want to go in the network, in the systems, in the security, in the data side. Like be hungry towards that particular field, and have the right attitude. That will really help you out. Yes, of course, like certificates are like really helpful. So you have to dedicate some time for yourself to get the certificate, get some education and whatsoever. And IT is the field where you have to get yourself updated every day. Believe me, if you're out for a week, then you feel like you are outdated. I agree and disagree. I would say like depends on who your like manager is, right? When I start my job, like a service desk, and my manager offered me the system admin position, and I told him like, hey, I'm sorry, I never worked as a system administrator, but I'm willing to take this job, and I'm willing to give 100% if you give an opportunity. So I had a right attitude, and like believe me, my manager helped me a lot with the system administrator. Like service desk and system admin, it's like you're right. Those are the jobs in IT field, but there is quite a few different things you have to do in those two jobs, right? But if manager is good, then you don't have to worry. Like he was really willing to invest the time in me. I 100% agree with you. You, of course, like if you're going for IT jobs, IT service desk job, you need to have some understanding of basic understanding of how the service desk functions, right? And how does it work, and basic troubleshooting stuff as well, because people and everyone does IT by their own. Let's say if something goes wrong with your smart TV. Like if people try to unplug the cable, try to switch the input, try to go to the different tab, try to go to update the OS. That's the part of the service desk job, and at the biggest scale. Number one tip, I will definitely go usually when you read the job description, you find out what exactly they required. Like, or you from the job description, you will find out what the company exactly is looking for, right? Like, and some nowadays, like they are mentioning what products they need expertise for as well, right? I definitely ask the people, like the newcomers for the IT service job, like try to read the whole job postings thoroughly and make sure you understand what they're asking for. Oh yeah, definitely. Everywhere I go, like wherever I go, I will say like, what's my career prospect down the road if I join the company, right? So, right, that's the most important thing.
I really don't like a situation when someone, pretends he knows everything. My job is to show you how to start your career in IT, how to make your IT skills better, how to develop your skills, and so on. My job is to show you that it is okay to say I don't know, it is okay to say I have to learn something, it is okay to say I have never used this tool before, I have to see how it works. I want to prove my point here, and I want to show you that I have to learn new things every day as well. Actually, one of my clients wants to install Kaspersky Cloud Endpoint Protection, a really cool solution that allows you to have one place to manage all antivirus applications. You will have one console, one website, one dashboard, you can deploy agents, you can see infections, you can modify a policy, and so on. The problem is, I have never used it. So I cannot really pop in and install this piece of software for my client. No, I have to test it. I have to give it a go, see how it works. I am not lying to you. I have never used this website before. I have used Kaspersky for many years, but I have not had a chance to use this solution. Okay, so as you can see, I am registered, I have my company name, and I have my Endpoint Security Cloud. You have 30 days to play with it, and your license allows you to install it on up to 100 devices, more than enough to test everything. When you think about a standard application in Windows, that's Windows Defender. Even though it says, oh, something is broken, something is not enabled, it's not critical. Real-time protection has been enabled. It's just this option that has not been enabled, so you don't have to panic. But my client says, you know what, I need something better. I need something with more features. He said, I want Kaspersky Cloud Endpoint Protection. Okay, we are logged in. What can we see here? We can see a dashboard and... Okay, we have to add users. Okay, that's a pretty standard thing. We have to tell users to connect devices. I don't like it, to be honest. I don't want my end users to install this piece of software. I want to do it on their behalf. I'm pretty sure there is an option for it as well. We will see. We have some additional steps. That looks pretty standard. Okay, so we can try and add a user. We'll see what happens. So, okay, I can see add user. Just an email address. It seems to me it is for a small company. You say, Mike, here is a piece of software that you can install. You know, in most cases, you are an IT guy, you want to do it on their behalf. So what will we see now? Yeah, so it's like an invite, just, do this to install it. Well, most users will not be very happy to follow these instructions. I would not recommend it. Okay, we have to find a way to download a package and push it to an end user. Is it under devices? No.
I am you.
Here we go. We have manual installation. That's what I was after. You can also use Active Directory group policy. Yes, you can push a piece of software using Active Directory and a special policy in group policy. Distribution packages. So I can create a package and then push it in any way I want to an end user. You can just, you can run an application on user's behalf. You can use Active Directory. You can write your own script to do it. A lot of options. We have to accept all licenses. You should read all these things, right?
Afraid of the dark?
It can take a moment to create a package.
Are you scared? I can see you from behind.
As you can see, I am connected to T01, so we can run this package straight away here. Download and run it. In most cases, when you run a package like this, no questions will be asked. It is not really designed for end users to say, "Oh, do I need a firewall?" No mate, you are an HR guy. You are not going to tell me if you need a firewall. I have a policy. I will tell you what you need to have. Yeah? So in most cases there are no questions. It's just going to be installed in the background.
Are you afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
As you can see, it's being installed in the background, so we can play with this interface. We have some security profiles and options. What modules should be enabled? We can tweak them, enable, disable, modify all these things. I don't want a firewall. Why? Well, because I am using Radmin at the moment and the firewall can block it, so I don't want to use it. Everything that I am modifying at the moment will be applied to my end devices. So you can have a profile, and as you can see, I can have more features. Yeah, so I can block some devices, web control. Some items have been disabled. That's okay. Host intrusion prevention. It's done. Awesome. Can't modify anything in here. In most cases you have to somehow apply a license. You have to say, please be so nice and use a license. We have to figure out how to do it. You all go, maybe you should have read a document online, Okay, I found it. I can activate my license. Now we should be ready to go. It's a good sign. A policy has been applied. It's up and running. Awesome. One of the reasons why we have a solution like this is to install an antivirus application on a server. I have a test Windows Server 2016 installed. I want to give it a go. For your information, I did remove Kaspersky from my laptop because I want to test a few other things on it. So it's not there anymore. I am connected to my server now. It's the same procedure. You download this package and install it. You activate a license and that's it, really. It should be okay. When we go to our dashboard, it should report that one device is down. It's okay, it's my laptop. I can always remove it later on. We can see our server in the list. We can see it is in green. Green is good. We are up to date, up and running. How cool is that? You can give it a go. Go for any application you want. Kaspersky, Norton, Bitdefender, whatever you want, play with it. I strongly recommend you use a test device for it. All these applications are going to, get pretty deep into your system. So do not use your main laptop for it. Get a test device or a virtual machine to play with it.
Are you scared?
Welcome to more advanced problems. You know that we will have part 2 of this training. We will cover a lot of really interesting topics in it. We'll talk about cloud solutions monitoring, more about Active Directory, and so on. Here I want to show you some basics again. I want to show you what I mean when I talk about more advanced topics. What's more, this is a really cool application that you can download and play with on your own laptop. I strongly recommend you use a test device for it. PRTG is a monitoring system. It gets pretty deep into your settings, so it is a good idea to have a test device. It is free to use, you don't have to pay anything to play with it. Even when your trial version expires, you can use it to support up to 100 devices. What's the idea behind a solution like this? You want to be proactive. You want to make sure that you figure out that something is wrong before you receive a call from your customer. Do you get the idea? They pay you to look after all these systems. You have to be proactive, you have to monitor everything. You can picture a server, a file server. End users copy and store a lot of important documents on these servers. What do you want to monitor? Disk space. Yes, you want to make sure that they have enough space to copy a really important spreadsheet on it. Do you get the idea? You want to be proactive. You want to monitor servers, routers, switches, access points, printers, and so on. The good thing about PRTG is that it is very easy to use. When you connect, take a look. One item is in red. Straight away, one thing is down. Something is wrong. This is exactly what you can expect in the real world. You will see things that are in red. Now everything is in green. That's another thing. When something goes down, when something happens, it changes its status to red. It's not working. When it starts working again, it changes to green. It doesn't mean that you don't have to look at it. You should actually go back and see what happened a few minutes ago. In most cases, you have something that is called a sensor, a probe, something that goes and asks, okay, what about your disk space, my dear server? How many gigabytes do you have over there? It is not going to be your job to tweak all these settings, but it is a good idea to play with them. As you can see, when you install it, you will have some basic sensors up and running straight away. You can see ping, DNS, HTTP, disk-free, and so on. As you can see, we have one sensor responsible for 3 bytes on our C drive. Maybe I want to modify it. Maybe I want to get an alert when, I am left with only 90%, when I'm left with 50% and so on. It all depends what your company is after. When I modify these values, I will see that I get an alert, or to be more specific, a warning. A warning means, it is not really down, it is not really a critical issue. It is something that you should look at. It is not something that, requires you to get up at 7 AM on Sunday to sort it out. It can become a critical issue. This is why you should look at it. Do we have a lot of options, a lot of applications to choose from? Yes. Here it's even more difficult than when I talked about service desk tools. With a service desk tool you have probably 15, maybe 20 applications that are used by big banks and so on. When you think about a monitoring system, I would say I could name at least 100 applications that are in use. Every single bank can use something else. Sometimes you cannot really name an application. It was just coded for you. GPO Group Policy Objects. We are going to have a really cool lab now. We'll talk about GPO and we'll apply some policies. The idea behind group policy is that we have a really great tool with thousands of options. GPO can be defined as a collection of policy settings that controls an operating system. I know it sounds really strange. What do you mean? What can I do? Well, if you open your Windows 7, 8 or 10 device and you go to, let's say, power settings, you can change whatever you want over there. If you go for, let's say, a screensaver, you can decide, I want to use this, I want to run it, whatever you want. Yeah, you can change your font, your wallpaper, your desktop settings, and so on. You can control everything that you can see on your screen. You can imagine that if you have 500 devices, it is not possible to go to every single device and change a wallpaper. Do you remember when we talked about some basics? Well, I said that the most important thing behind a server was that we have one place that allows you to control everything in our environment. Here we go. We have something that is called GPO, and with one click, yes, with one click, I can change your wallpaper to a pink elephant. I know, you're being mean now. Yeah, I know, I would never do that. Well, maybe. But the idea is that you have thousands of options. You can lock down your system. And one thing that is pretty important to remember, that if you're in a production environment, end users have no admin rights. If you have a local PC, if you have your own desktop PC, you are an administrator. You can change whatever you want. You can change an IP address, you can change all settings, you can even remove everything from your C drive if you want. That's fair enough. If you think about a corporate environment, it's not acceptable. You can't allow your end users to change an IP address, to change it to a static IP address, to change some IPv6 settings, add a USB device, whatever. No, it's not allowed. But we want to take it to the next level. We want to make sure our users are not administrators. That's pretty easy. We create a new account in Active Directory and we're done. But we want to make sure that we can change whatever we need to change from our server. Here is our server. Here is our test device. We are logged in as Mike. And when you think about GPO, we go for Tools and Group Policy Management. Here we go. We did create a test policy a few minutes ago, but we'll ignore it. I will go for Users and Computers, and I will create a new OU. And we'll call it W10. I will move my test user to this new OU. Mike, move. Here we go. If you want to apply a GPO, you have to apply it using an OU. We have Mike that is in this OU, and we'll create a GPO, apply it over here, and well, we'll play with some options. Every time I teach GPO, I show a very basic policy. We want to remove our bin from the desktop. We want to get rid of it. It's really easy to test. I always recommend you reboot your PC. There is a way to force it. There is a really cool command, gp update force. You can use it. I always recommend you reboot your device. It's always the easiest way, especially in a lab. If you go for a production environment, you will be more careful. Sometimes you will use the gp update command to make sure you can refresh some settings. Sometimes you don't have a choice, you have to reboot your device. Okay, we have our OU, test user, we go for GPO, let's refresh it, here we go, we right click here, we create a GPO in this domain and link it here. Please note that there are two sections here. You can create a GPO and then you can link it. There are two actions here. This option allows you to combine these two items. This means creating and linking, but you can always create a GPO and apply it later on. Yeah, over here you can just create a GPO and it is not going to work. You have to link it, you have to apply it. I am okay with creating and linking. Let's call it test GPO1. Okay. Right click, edit.
I'm coming closer.
There are two main sections that are available. Computer applies to your machine. It doesn't matter if Mike uses it today and John uses this machine tomorrow. All settings will be applied at the computer level. When you think about user, well, that's pretty easy. We want to make sure that Mike is going to be affected. This is what I want to do. I think we're ready to give it a go and see GPO in action. Let's go for my idea. We want to remove all items, well, actually our bin from the desktop. We go for desktop and over here there should be an option to remove some items. Here we go. Remove recycle bin icon from desktop. Please note that you get a really nice description. It shows you everything that you have to know about this option. We double click and we say enable. Please be very careful when you say enable, because sometimes you can remove something and it says enabled, and sometimes you can turn on something and it says enabled. I'll show you what I mean when I go for desktop here. Please note it says enable active desktop, and then you can disable active desktop, and both states are not configured, but you can say enable this and enable that. Yeah, you have to be careful, because sometimes when you enable you're going to block something, and sometimes when you enable something you will allow something. I hope it makes sense. And we go back to desktop and we can see this item has been enabled. We go back to GPO and in settings we can see that this item has been applied. Desktop, here we go. Remove recycle bin. Again, you can click on it and see what's going to happen. Supported operating systems as well. You can go for details and delegation as well. You can lock this down if you want to be more specific. You can play with these options. I recommend you start with a really basic lab, make sure that GPO is up and running, and then you can play with more advanced options. Now, as I said, rebooting your device is the easiest way. I'll show you a trick. You can reboot your device from the CMD. The command is shutdown. Then you say R for reboot. There's an option for S to shut down as well, but we want to reboot. F means force, close all applications that are running in the background. And T means shut down in 5 seconds, well, reboot in 5 seconds. Okay, here we go. Our icon is gone. If you want to troubleshoot, there is a really cool command, gp result, and then you have a few switches. The most important one is R, summary data. R, and please note it says test GPO has been applied. I did mention one command which allows you to GP update force is something that you can use if you want to refresh your GPOs and you don't want to reboot your device. Please note that sometimes you don't have a choice. Some settings will be applied if you reboot your device, and in many cases Microsoft is very clear about it and says, okay, reboot your device if you want this option to be applied. Here you can always give it a go and use the GP update command to refresh your settings and GPOs. I hope you're okay with it. It's not that difficult, and well, now you have to go to your server, click edit and play with all options. A few additional things that I want to show you and interesting items that you can use. If you go for control panel, you can prohibit access to control panel, a very popular option, because now when I say control panel, I can access it. Okay, maybe I want to block it. Let's do this. Apply. GP update force. Here we go. Okay. Now I cannot access control panel, I cannot access PC settings. One more option. If you go for Windows settings, you can control your applications, drive maps, environment, files, folders, registry, shortcuts, yeah. And network settings, you can specify what is allowed, for instance, for LAN connections, for network settings, and so on.
Afraid of the dark? Are you scared?
File and print services. We'll start with file, folder, and share permissions. A really cool lecture. We'll talk about some basics here. I will show you what you need to know and understand when it comes to NTFS permissions and how you can, for instance, share a folder. The good thing is that you can play with this feature if you have Windows 7, 8 or 10 and you don't need a server. This is good because you can take advantage of these options and share a folder with your friend or in your home network. When we think about files and shares, there are some file systems that we have to understand. There are two legacy systems, FAT and FAT32, and we'll not even talk about them. We want to focus on NTFS, and I want to mention resilient file system as well, which is beyond our discussion and it was not designed to replace NTFS, even though when you read some documents and you watch some videos, people say, oh, there is a really cool new system that you can use. Well, yeah, fair enough.
Are you scared?
However, this system was not designed to replace NTFS, which is absolutely fine. No, it was designed for data stores and places like data centers and big networks. When you think about NTFS, we're absolutely fine and we have a lot of interesting options. We can enable compression, encryption, EFS, encrypted file system. We can specify that mic can use, for instance, 5 GB of space. We have security. We can decide if and what mic can access, and some additional options that you can see on your screen. This is something that you will use every day when you play with a server. If you get a job as an engineer, this is going to be your main task. Well, actually, you will have two main tasks. You will manage users in Active Directory, and you can play and assign permissions when it comes to files and shares. So let's talk a little more about NTFS and how you can share a folder. Well, you can see a lot of important facts on your screen. Well, I have a better idea. Let's connect to our server and I want to show you something straight away because it's much easier. First of all, we'll create a new folder here and we'll call it test1. Right click, go to properties, and you will see that we have two main tabs that we want to focus on. First of all, we have sharing and security. Sharing means you want to share this folder and there are permissions behind it. Security, sometimes this tab is called NTFS permissions because you want to lock it down for a user when it comes to NTFS, so our file system. Here, when we go back, when we think about share permissions, we have three options that we can go for: read, change, and full control. When we think about NTFS permissions, we have more options. It's not only full control, which should be avoided. Well, I'll be honest with you, you should never ever apply and give full control to end users. Well, maybe, okay, yeah, sometimes it might be justified, but please note that when you think about full control, they can take ownership of items, yeah, and they can change permissions. You don't want to do this. If you give access to a folder, let's say Mike wants to have a really nice folder and he wants to store his documents, okay, fair enough, you can create a folder and give whatever he wants, that's fair enough, but you don't want Mike to give access to this folder to somebody else. No, you should do this, yeah? In most cases, when you think about a company and an enterprise network, there is a process behind it. It's not like Mike calls you up and goes, well, listen mate, can I have access? Sure Mike, no problem, let's do this. Well, not really. In a big network, Mike has to maybe raise a ticket, open a change request, whatever, and then someone has to approve it because, you know, you're an IT guy. You have no clue if Mike should have access to this folder. You have no clue, you're an IT guy. So full control avoided. And everything else is absolutely fine and pretty easy to understand when you think about modify, read, write access. It's pretty easy. When you think about share permissions, pretty easy as well. Read, change, and full control. A lot of people go for full control here and then lock it down using NTFS. And that sentence was really important because I said, well, you apply full control when you think about share permissions and then you can lock it down using NTFS? Yes, because when you think about permissions, this is something that it's really important. When you have share permissions and NTFS permissions, well, they work together. So if we think about share permissions, you provide full control, but NTFS gives you read access only, you're done. You can have read access only. That makes sense? The most restrictive permission is going to be applied. Full control for share permissions and then NTFS to lock this down. Let's go back to our virtual machine and check it quickly. So when we go for sharing, we'll have a dedicated lab, so I don't want to do everything here, but we go for advanced sharing, and over here when you click on permissions, you can see full control, change and read. Security, as you can see, full control, modify and so on. Pretty easy. You have to memorize the main differences between NTFS and share permissions because we're going to have a really cool lab. I will share a folder, I will assign permissions and show you some additional options. You can imagine that sometimes it's pretty tricky. You can say, well, it might be really complicated when I give full control, then I play with modify. Yeah, This one will help. Effective permissions. Windows knows that it is really tricky. Sometimes you can be confused, okay, what can Mike access? And Windows can tell you there is an option like this, effective permissions. Windows is going to show you, okay, Mike can access this, and that. What's more, we are going to map a drive. Mike is a really happy guy because he can access a folder. We shared a folder with him yesterday. That's fine, but it is really important for Mike to double click on something on his desktop to access this folder. And I'll show you how to approach this as well. So I think we're ready. We are going to have a really cool lab now and we'll share some files and folders. It's very important to double check that your CPU supports virtualization. Google is your friend. The easiest way is to find your CPU and Google it. See if it supports a set of instructions that allows you to create a virtual machine. What's more, you have to double check and verify that this feature has been enabled in BIOS. It's very difficult for me to show you what I mean because it all depends on the platform that you own. Again, Google is your friend. Whatever laptop or desktop you have, just say, for instance, HP 250 how to enable VTX. And you will see hundreds of posts within seconds showing you how to enable this feature in BIOS. Every time you create a virtual machine, it is like a real device, a real PC, a real operating system. This means you need CPU, RAM and disk space. Here is something that I recommend if you want to create 5, 6 or 8 virtual machines. You need a really decent CPU, i5, i7, a lot of RAM. Please remember that every time you run a virtual machine, let's say Windows 10, well, you should give it 2 GB of RAM. If you open 5 or 6 Windows 10 virtual machines, well, it's very easy to calculate that 16 GB of RAM might not be enough for you. Finally, SSD, solid state disk. This is something I recommend. It is a solution that will speed up all operations. When it comes to virtual machines, everything will be saved using your drive, your disk, and if you go for SSD, you will see that you can open Windows 10, Kali Linux and whatever else you want within seconds. VirtualBox is not the only solution. We have some commercial solutions as well. VirtualBox is free and you can buy a license to enable some additional features, but generally speaking it is a free tool. You have some commercial tools as well, VMware and Hyper-V, two key players when it comes to virtualization. Hyper-V is available on many Windows platforms and VMware. There is a free version as well, VMware Player, but it's really limited, so you have to pay to get more features. Before we move on, I want to show you VirtualBox. I will not show you how to install it, it's just next, finish, you accept everything and allow a special driver to be installed. When you have VirtualBox ready, you open it and you can create a new virtual machine. You give it a name, and if you say something that VirtualBox can recognize, this application will try and suggest what you mean. So if you say Linux, it will say, okay, this is what I think you want to install. It will try and customize everything. The next step allows you to specify the amount of RAM, create a hard disk. You can create a new one or use an existing one. In most cases, if you start from scratch, you want to create a new one. We don't have to worry about these options. They're more advanced if you want to move between platforms. And here finally you specify, I want to have 50 GB of space. In most cases you go for a dynamic option. This means that you're not going to use 50 gigabytes straight away, and it's really cool because it allows you to create a lot of virtual machines. When you start your virtual machine, it's going to fail to boot up because we have not specified an operating system, an image to boot up. In one of our previous lessons, I showed you how you can download, for instance, Windows 10, and you download a special image that you specify over here in VirtualBox, and then, as you can see, we can start installing, in my case, Windows 10. It's a bit different when it comes to Kali Linux, and it is easier because we don't have to install it. This is something that has been pre-configured for us. We don't have to go through a wizard, and Kali Linux will be ready to be used straight away. And this is something I'm going to show you in our next lecture. Windows Operating System Fundamentals Chapter 2. Installing and upgrading client systems. We'll start with the first topic. We have to identify Windows Operating System editions and talk about system requirements. We have to know what we have to have in our laptop, in our desktop, in our server to install Windows 10. If you want to take the MBA exam, and I know what you're going to say, well, you keep saying the same thing, oh, it's important, yeah, we know it's important. Well, please forgive me, from time to time I will stress it again. This is something that appears on any IT exam when it comes to system requirements and editions. Please be prepared to answer a question from this section. When it comes to Windows editions, we have a lot of options to choose from. You can see in bold the two main versions that have been with us for ages are Home and Pro. And when it comes to the Home version, it is something that in most cases you receive with a laptop, with a desktop PC, and it is designed for a home user. There are some differences, and we'll talk about them in a moment. When it comes to the Pro version, professional version of Windows 10, it is designed for a corporate network. If you buy a laptop and want to connect this laptop to a domain, to something that is in your company, in most cases you will have, for instance, Windows Server 2012, 2016 and so on. And the main difference is that when you buy the professional version of Windows 10, you can join this PC to the domain. This means that your laptop is going to be managed by your server. With the Home version, you can't do it. I'm pretty sure you remember our discussion about RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol, and one of the things that I showed you was how to enable RDP. Do you remember? So when we go to change settings, we go to remote, you will see that we can enable remote desktop because we are running, in this case, the enterprise version of our Windows 10 operating system. And that's fine. When you have the Home version, you don't have RDP in place. Here we go. Okay, so we have Home. Pro S is a pretty limited version that was designed, for instance, for Microsoft Surface devices and so on. Now, I think I read about it a couple of days ago that you can upgrade from the S version to Home and Pro. I'll show you a table in a moment that summarizes all differences, and here you have a couple of links that you can use. Then when it comes to Enterprise, Mobile, Education, and there are more editions, but these are the main ones that you have to memorize. There are really special editions designed for when it comes to Enterprise. In most cases you can go to Microsoft. Let's say you have a company with 10,000 users. Of course you will not go and buy 10,000 Pro versions of Windows 10. You will go to Microsoft and say, "Dear Microsoft, I have 10,000 users. What can we do about it?" Well, we can give you the Enterprise license, and then you can use this license for X number of users. The same for mobile devices, education. So let's say you have a school, and of course you have a lot of laptops. You want to use Windows 10 on all these devices, and then Microsoft can offer a special license for you. Here we go. Here is a nice link that you can use to compare the main two versions of Windows 10 Home and Pro. As you can see, all the basics are the same when it comes to user experience and security. There is one difference: Bitlocker. Bitlocker allows you to encrypt your hard disk, and it's really nice because it's built into Windows. And now it is available in Windows Pro. It used to be like Windows, it was not available in Windows Pro, for instance for Windows 7. Now they allow you to encrypt your hard disk using Windows 10 Pro, but if you have Windows 10 Home, you cannot use Bitlocker, you cannot encrypt your hard disk. What's more, games, of course, the same. And then we have business and some additional features. Of course, I will not read everything. One of the things that are worth mentioning is group policy. This is what I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. You can join a Windows 10 PC to the domain. This means that you have a server that is responsible for everything that is going on in your company, and your server can apply special policies. It's called group policy, and of course you need the Pro version of Windows 10 to apply these policies, and if you have Home, you can't have group policy objects. Okay, and some additional options. Remote desktop, please note, yeah, we covered this already. It is on the list as well. It's not true that you can't use it. Well, you cannot RDP into the Home version of Windows 10, but that's what they mean here. You cannot RDP into the Home version. Okay, client Hyper-V. We'll talk about virtualization later on. You will find the same table for all editions. You can see the links on your screen, and I recommend you visit. Even Wiki shows you a nice table with all editions and features that you can find. It's nice to know what you can get from all these versions.